Hey, do me a favor, pretend this is June. We are halfway through the year of 2026, friends, and that means I've already seen a good amount of horror films. So I just randomly thought it would be a fun idea to rank them so far, and it wasn't because I saw that my 2025 horror movie ranking did incredibly well and still continues to be watched to this day. It's easy, it's breezy, it's CoverGirl. That used to be their motto. I have no idea if it still is. But I do know this. Not every scary, horrific film I saw this year has made the list. For instance, Tyler Perry's Road Trip, not on here. Melania, not on here. They probably would be fighting for the number one spot because those films are haunting. No. I stuck primarily to horror and thriller. So without any further poo-poo, let's get on to the list and hopefully I see you 2.5, 3 hours later on the other side. If you find yourself enjoying this cash grab, feel free to sub to the show. Adam Does Movies. I'm on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you watch or listen. I put out a ton of videos, a lot of reviews, a lot of movie commentary, a live stream once or twice a week. I think it's okay to double dip once in a while, and I think it's in your best interest to support by watching it all over again. All right, let's get to it. Number 23. From the creative visionary behind Drive and Neon Demon comes his newest film, Her Private Hell. A trippy, psychological thriller that'll keep you guessing as to why this movie was ever greenlit. Somewhat related question, have you ever watched a movie by a director that was so fucking bad that you thought, man, maybe he's not that great of a director at all? Maybe I was wrong about previous movies. Just throwing that out there. Might have something to do with the fact that Her Private Hell, apt name, was my private hell. I went with my buddy to this fresh as a fiddle. That's not an expression, but I'm expressing it. We had no knowledge of this movie, did not see a trailer. The only thing in my noggin was the fact that Sophie Thatcher starred in it. And it was directed by the dude that did Drive, a movie I just recently watched for the first time. I know, I slept on that movie. It's great. I love Drive. I think. Maybe it's great. Now I don't know because of this. And I say that playfully. I say that tongue and ass, again, as the expression goes, because this movie felt like it didn't even understand the basic concepts of how to present a story in moving picture format. The movie is rated R for some violence, gore, and some sexual content. No nudity. Because fuck me, that's why. Why would we give Adam anything that he could possibly want from this film? No. Instead, we're going to see Sophie Thatcher bedazzled under the eyes most of the movie because she, in this world, is making her own movie. Why? Unclear. Nothing's really clear because this is one of those interpretive dance type of situations. And it's okay if it's interpretive as long as the story unfolds in an interesting manner, as long as the characters are fun to watch, as long as there's something to hook onto and stay along for the journey. But nah, you don't have that here. What we have is 5 or 6 gals held up in a penthouse with mist all around them. What is the mist? Oh, it's a secret. Will we find out? Not really. Listen, the whole thing takes place in sort of a surreal purgatory. Well, I guess it's the underworld is where they're at. And there's a man searching for his daughter that goes by the name of Kay. And I think our special K is in the real world. It's hard to really understand because even the real world is covered in mist and fog, and maybe it's all. Maybe they're all dead the whole time. Who knows? Who cares? As of recording this video, I'm at the tail end of July. It's been a roller coaster of bad movies this year, and every time I think I'm about to talk about the worst one hands down, something like Her Private Hell comes along and sweeps me off my feet all over again. Director Nicolas Winding Refn, I'm sure I pronounced that 1000% correct, is so obsessed with the human body, but not the parts that people want to see. Instead, really focusing on the torso of a young woman or the rippling abs of a Special K. He caresses from time to time down the bodice with the camera, while you're sitting there wondering if anything at all is gonna happen in this movie. Anyway, what we have here are these ladies held up in this high-rise, beautiful building, futuristic of sorts, mist around them. It felt like there was some AI shots thrown in. It could just be weird, trippy CG. Either way, it sucks. Johnny Thunders runs this ruckus. He's into the younger women, likes to stick around the, mid-20s, early 30s range, which is coincidentally the same age as her daughter, played by Sophie Thatcher. Thatcher and him have a complicated relationship. It's also entirely possible this guy is sketchy enough to be a crazed killer who's going around murdering people in this misty world, known simply and tastefully as the Leatherman. That's right. Leather Daddy's home, and he's ready to bust open your chest with his bare fucking glittery hands. That's true, he wears glitter glove hands, and they say, legends foretell, the only way to kill the Leatherman is to lob those bad boys off. Otherwise, he does a Mortal Kombat fatality on an unsuspecting victim. Cool, right? Wrong! There are maybe 2, possibly 3 Leatherman kills in the movie. My buddy turned to me and he said, I'm trying to think of a compliment to give this movie, and even when there is one, it kind of falls flat because, sure, some of the visuals are kind of trippy and cool, but then we're in space flying around with the ladies like they're in an episode of Star Trek, and it turns into a B-movie, and we don't really know why we're watching this. Because again, the ladies are making a movie in hell, but the real hell are the friends that we met along the way in the theater who went to this thing. Thatcher's character, Elle, or Ellie, who cares? She has a very complicated relationship with her mommy, Dominique, who's around the same age as Sophie Thatcher's character is. It's awkward, There's also 2 other actresses who are just weird the whole film because they're foxes. I guess that's a spoiler, but I don't care. No one's gonna see this movie. No one even knows what this movie is. They're foxes in name only. It's a symbolic sort of a thing. The foxes lead the Leatherman to the chosen one, I think. One of them just kind of like pulls pins out of a pin cushion thing, and she makes a lot of weird motions and just looks like a dipshit. And the other one has the largest Disney eyes I've ever seen. Speaking of Disney, it should be noted that the music in this movie is ridiculous. It sounds like background Disney music when the villain is about to give a speech. And that's the entire movie's like that. Very whimsical, has a childlike wonder to it. Awful. If you can forgive a movie for a bad plot and pacing, as long as there's some cool kills and some gross carnage, you won't be forgiven this, because that's not really here either. Outside of a couple, again, ripped chest fatalities that are over in a blink of an eye, there's nothing else. I mentioned a little adult content. There is there's some penetration later. You don't see anything. It's just Sophie Thatcher getting drywalled up against the side of a window. Penetration, short for penetration. I apologize. I should have clarified that earlier. She's like, and then the background. Wipeout. It's a great film. As the story unfolds, our lead protagonist finds out she's a little bit special, a little bit different than the other gals, and maybe has more to offer this underworld than meets the eye. While this story's going on, and she's trying to, work on a relationship with her papa and her young mama, there's also the Agent Special K thing going on in the real world that looks not real at all. He's going around trying to find the missing girl, his missing daughter that he lost years earlier. This takes him to the seedy underbelly of the mist, where he gets in a couple of altercations with some bad guys. There is a cool, violent moment here where he takes a knife and sticks it through a guy's arm and then pushes it down into his eye. But getting to that point in the movie is a testament to a person's endurance. I wanted to leave after about 15 minutes. You know pretty early on what you're getting with a movie like this. As I left the movie completely deflated with my buddy, we were talking about it a little bit, but there were a few others behind us who were gabbing it up, so we stayed quiet. I wanted to hear what others thought. The regular common peasants going to movies, not the jaded, cynical pricks like myself. They hated it. One of the guys was laughing and said, it seemed like they signed the actors on first, then they started filming second, and then they put the story together third as they were already rolling the camera. Honestly, that's how it felt. It's a great film! I cannot for the life of me imagine anyone greenlighting such a stupid concept for a film. What makes it even more frustrating is it's not even a bad, fun movie. Like another one I just recently watched, Water Park Shark. What a terrible film up and down, but at least I got a lot of laughs out of it. I'll be talking and reviewing that one next. This movie is just a boring dud to try to get through. And I truly feel bad for people who wasted their hard-earned coin going to it. Let this be a public service announcement and a warning for you to maybe stick away from this one. I almost never tell people, don't go to a movie and see it. Make up your own mind. Support original films. Keep theaters going. But in this case, oh my fucking God, I don't think this should be supported. It was really, really bad. Number 22. Here comes the bride. Here comes the bride. I just saw the new film by Maggie Gyllenhaal called The Bride! Because it's that zany! For the last 7 days, I've been struggling with what I can only describe as throat cancer. It's been great. As you can tell, that sexy baritone you're picking up on is a wall of phlegm. After avoiding human contact for a week, I said to myself, you know what, Adam? No! It's time for you to get up off the couch, go outside, touch some grass, and be part of society again without having to interact with society. And I thought, well, where the hell am I supposed to go where no one else is going to be around to bother me? And then I remembered, the movie theater! And as luck would have it, The Bride was playing, and it was an empty house. Except for one. I know it came out last week, but again, I was dying, and now I sound 100% better. Thanks for the killer genes, Mom! But I heard a lot of mixed reviews on this one, so I had to go out and see it for myself. The Bride is written and directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal. The trailer makes it look like it's gonna be an absolutely bonkers good time. But did that turn out to be the case in the final product? Well, I'm gonna let you know right now in a review. It sucked! I actually went into the movie feeling 100% better, and I left 50% worse. It's 1930s Chicago. A 100-plus-year-old Frankenstein is looking for some tail. And this guy's not looking for some fresh cat. No, he's looking for some dead puss. He wants his bride to match him. He wants his bride to be on the same wavelength as he is, meaning flatlined. And in order to do such a thing, he's going to need a mad scientist. Good thing Annette Bening is just around the riverbend, Pocahontas. He rings the doorbell. Sking, ding, ding, ding. Ding, ding, ding. It's an obnoxious doorbell. And he says, listen, I need you to do what my mad scientist Frankenstein did to me. I also go by Frankenstein. I took my dad's name. Thus the bride is born! It's always fun to see back-to-back movies with an actor. One film fantastic, the other this. So I saw Jessie Buckley just recently in Hamnet, a really good movie. She gives a killer performance. And now here she is in this, where she'll probably be up for a Razzie or two. Although, to be fair, she's perfectly fine. The movie itself is just an absolute shit show. For starters, she plays Trey characters. And I apologize if I get the names wrong. The sickness has made its way up to my brain. I'll probably be on the floor by the time this review is done. They're going to have to resurrect me as well. I believe her name is Ida, or Ida. She is a girlfriend to a mobster. There's a mob storyline in here that's going to go virtually nowhere, but they're going to take time to go back to this. Maggie Gyllenhaal's like, I want some mob stuff in my movie. I want to get the mobsters in here for a little bit. Forget about it. And then she forgets about it for the majority of the runtime. But old Ida classically falls down the stairs, and she dies. And when she's reborn as the bride, she doesn't really remember the past. She has amnesia. But there's also another passenger along for the ride who goes by the name of Mary Shelley. You might be thinking to yourself, wait a second. Didn't Mary Shelley write Frankenstein back in the 1800s? Yeah, she did. It's the very same Mary Shelley. She is a disembodied voice who's going to be talking with our main protagonist randomly throughout the film and speaking on her behalf, which is really fun because then we get to see Buckley do 3 different characters in tandem. It's just such a riot, Alice. Mary Shelley in this film is going to be playing the role of women's rights activist, and she's going to point out every terrible thing men do throughout the film. It's just, I love it. I love any time a movie can say how much guys suck. I relate to that as a self-described man. Mary's also a master of words, so we're going to get a bunch of situations where the bride is going to say the same word in like 15 different ways. Well, that's what we call a catch-22. Catch me if you can, Tom Hanks. Catcher's mitt, ketchup, catcher in the rye, cash me outside, how about that? The bride is a free spirit. She gets to maintain her healthy glow. There's no real stitches. She has a tiny one on the side of her cheek and some ink blot shit on the side of her face. Otherwise, she's pretty well intact, looks great. She's faring a lot better than the director's co-star Christian Bale is as Frankenstein. He's got the stitches, he's got the open wounds, he's just an overall train wreck. But the man is on a search for love. He wants to feel the closeness of a woman. He wants to feel the touch of a lady. He yearns for a BJ from a whore. Actually, I don't even think he wants that because later on the offer's on the table and he's like, I'm good. I should also point out I will do a spoiler video down the road if this video performs well, and obviously I'll sound better for that one. But YouTube is a cruel mistress, and this bitch demands content on the daily. I've already missed a couple days. I cannot keep the AI gods waiting any longer. So anyway, we have a pussy Frankenstein, we have a crazy bride, and these two are going to get themselves in a little bit of trouble when they go dancing at an alleyway nightclub, as one does in the 1930s. And a couple of guys get real handsy with our bride. I should point out, pretty much every man in this movie is a complete dipshit or they're a rapist. Like, she almost gets sexually assaulted several times. Once by a couple gang members, another time by a cop. I'm pretty sure every person that she sees, any guy she comes into contact with is like, I'm gonna get you later, ma'am. I'm gonna get you later. If you're looking for scares, it's not a scary movie at all. If you're looking for gore, violence, there's a little bit, there's a tidge, a tiny smattering of it once in a while. Couple gross scenes. Actually, there's one really disgusting one where she like rips out a guy's tongue, and that part I was like, oh, I don't care for that. That's not very ladylike, ma'am. I suppose the best way to describe this movie is take everything terrible about Joker Filet-O-Fish and remove any of the decent stuff in there. There was very little, but any of the decent stuff. And then you have the bride. As I was watching the film, within the first 3 minutes, I really thought to myself, I hope whatever was attacking my body a couple days ago comes back and kills me. Turns out my wish was granted because it came back with a passion. Speaking of Joker 2, Filet Mignon, there is a dance number in this movie. There's no standout singing moments, although Jake Gyllenhaal does play a character. He's very dapper. He comes up on the screen quite a bit in black and white because Frankenstein's a big fan of the pictures. Anytime he comes on, he has a little song and a smile. A finger in the dike is worth 2 in the asshole. A penny for your thoughts. And then Buckley chimes in. Pennywise, Penny Hardaway, Lil Penny, penny for your thoughts. When we're not road tripping it through Chicago, New York, and the countryside with these two dead idiots, we also have detectives on the case trying to figure out where they're going next. And they're played by Peter Sarsgaard and Penelope Cruz. And since this whole movie is about women empowerment and how much men suck, naturally she's the better detective. And even Peter knows this, but he can't say anything because the patriarchy and the men up top look down on her because she has boobies. There's a scene where she tries to get information out, but there's a bunch of male cops around. They're like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. But she's like, if I could just chime, yeah, blah, 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 blah. If I could just say, blah, 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 blah. And it is so fucking funny later when she reveals she's a detective to the guys. The chief officer's like, who's the detective here, lady? And she looks at him, pulls out her badge, and goes, it's me, and basically looks right at us, the audience. Ding! And all I could think during this whole film, and I apologize because of the voice, but I'll try anyways, was strong female elite. And for a monster movie taking place in the 1930s, quite frankly, it's about time. I guess this is supposed to be described as a tragic love story of sorts, but it's just tragic. And I didn't love it. From an acting standpoint, Jessie Buckley, again, she's a fantastic actress. She's doing the job she was directed to do. It's just a horrible one to listen and watch. Christian Bale, fantastic actor. He's, I guess, putting in the performance he was told to as well, which is awful. He is so over the top as this character, giving the dumbest facial expressions possible. They both do at one point. They're like, blah, blah, blah. Whatever stupid, unattractive, unappealing face I'm making right there, times that by 10. And that's what you get throughout this film. Let's talk production. It's good. Again, just like with Joker, Feliz Navidad, it looks good. It's a pretty looking film. There's some artistic nonsense going on that I can't stand, such as when we hear from Mary, the Mary author character who's giving notes on the movie as it's going. That's fun. That we show her neck up in this black void. Again, it's played by Buckley in a different accent. She's British. All that stuff's awful. As for the setting, the clothing, the look overall of the time period, I think that's probably accurate enough. I mean, I don't know. I'm getting up there in age, but I wasn't born in the 1930s, so it's really hard. I mean, who's to say for certain? All I know is these two dipshits are able to get away from the cops easy as pie. They'll be surrounded in an alleyway. There's one door. They open the door and go through, and then they just wander around the kitchen and this club for like 10 minutes before the cops show up. What the fuck were they doing out there? Nobody ran in after them, apparently? And another hilarious scene. She's driving at night, trying to get by a bunch of cops. She spins the wheel into a cornfield, goes like half a mile in, stops the car. Meanwhile, the cops, I guess, assume she vanished like a ghost. Whoa, the car was in front of us and then it just vanished. How could that be? I don't know. Do you see all those broken corn cobs back there? That's odd. Yeah, that is odd, but I wouldn't say that she went through there with a car. You can't take a car through a field. That's what roads are for. Yeah, but there's tire tracks going through there too. No. That's a tractor. Tractors leave tracks. That's why they pay you top dollar, Chief. That's right. And because I'm a man. This movie's embarrassing, and anyone involved should feel sad for being in it. But they also got paid probably really well to be in it, so I guess the joke's on me. I paid money to go watch the movie that was terrible. They got paid to be in the terrible movie and now have a second house in fucking California. Life is grand. I'm gonna go die now. I'm sure I have more to say on this when I can talk fully again, but for now I'm gonna leave it there. I really did not enjoy any of the swings this movie took. And I so badly yearn for the day where we can make competent movies again that have messaging that isn't smashed over your head with a tack hammer. Let me know. If you watched The Bride! ! Please leave a comment down below. I apologize again for my voice, but if I don't keep the YouTube algorithm going, I'm as good as dead. Like Frankenstein. Number 21. Well, we made it to the end of a saga. The final chapter of The Strangers has come to a close. I know, it's been a whirlwind of an adventure, hasn't it? Starting all the way back in 2024, we've had 3 films in The Strangers trilogy, I guess is what we're calling it. Unlike other movies that go on and on and on, like Fast and the Furious and whatnot, this one is truly remarkable to me because unlike those where they are somewhat standalone and one can be good and the next one can be bad, the Strangers movies are all interconnected. It's all one storyline that's continuing for some reason over the course of like 5 hours. So the interesting thing about The Strangers is if you liked the first one and you were still on board for the second one, why? But also, there's no reason to even watch a review. You've already made up your mind. You enjoy the shittiness of those movies. And so for me, this truly might be the most pointless review I've ever put out in my life. With that out of the way, Let's talk strangers! Strap in as Maya wanders aimlessly for another hour and a half through the woods. Buckle the fuck up as no secrets are revealed because there's truly nothing to any of these movies. I had to sit through another hour and a half of strangers, so I'm a little upset. I'm a tad annoyed. So what can you expect from this 2026 installment? Well, it's an hour and a half. It's R-rated. There's no nudity. I suppose there's swearing, although Maya, our main protagonist, barely talks in this film because she's so distraught. She's so disheveled. She is so broken to pieces. There is some violence. There is some gore. There's some really ridiculously over-the-top sound effects. A person gets stabbed and it's like... It's like, dude, you just put a knife in the side of their stomach. What is happening right now? Yeah! It's like they're giving birth to an alien squid. Much like the previous movie, this really is going to be the Maya show. She's putting in the work here as she just kind of looks attractive, even though she's all cut up and shit from the last film, as she meanders around this movie. If you're a gamer and you've ever played a Resident Evil game, at some point you have probably lost the plot. And you start kind of backtracking over familiar grounds. You don't have a key, so you can't get into an area. You check the same cupboard like 45 times, hoping this time there will be a note or something that takes you on with your adventure. That's what the last two Stranger movies have really felt like. They're padding out the runtime. You're watching Maya just kind of walk through woods. Everything takes an eternity to move. Here's an example of a scene, one of many you can find riddled throughout this garbage, where Maya's sitting in the police car with the chief, and she asks him for the first aid kit so she can bandage up a wound on her hand. She asks the question. The camera lingers on her for a while, then it moves over to the police officer, lingers on him for what felt like 5 minutes, back to her, back to him, a close-up of the hand. What's he gonna do? What's gonna happen next? It's so unnecessarily slow, and there's really no fear to it. There's no stakes here because I don't give a shit about Maya. I was hoping she'd be dead after the first movie. It's just laughably paced. That's maybe something for the Rotten Tomatoes pull quote. It's laughably paced. Put that right on the box cover art. Do they still make DVDs or Blu-rays anymore? Or is it all just digital? We live in fun, wild times, don't we? You own nothing. I honestly have no idea what people enjoy about these films. Because the choices the characters make are so mind-numbingly stupid, the antagonists are not scary at all. There's no real psychological element to any of this, although that's going to be picked up in this third part, or an attempt to pick it up. After some very severe Stockholm Syndrome starts to kick in for Maya, possibly, maybe, who knows? You have to watch all 90 minutes to find out! She might become one of the strangers herself. It's even on the poster. She's carrying one of the masks. Is she going to be the next Dollface or Betty Boop or Scare Monster or any of the other well, there's only 3 of them and I don't really know their names or care. The tension couldn't be lower. The stakes couldn't be lower. There's another fun scene. Let's get into why the examples really matter. Why the character choices are so ridiculous. After she's been running, over the course of 3 hours or whatever it's been through these movies trying to get to safety, she will eventually evade their capture for the 14th time. Stumbling through the woods again, she finds an old church. She decides, in her infinite wisdom, to go into the church, not seek shelter, not look for a drink of water, maybe just grab a chalice and start chugging the holy water. No, she finds a piano in the corner. She starts doom, doom, playing it. Why? Why? I was going to say it's something akin to watching the Twilight movies, but rated R. That's almost a disservice to Twilight, which is incredibly stupid, don't get me wrong, but I think I'd rather sit through those than this trash again. Because at least with Twilight, I can laugh at how completely dumb it is. With The Strangers, I'm just miserably squirming around in my chair waiting for it to end. Again, I'm not speaking to the strange hards out there. If you have yourself a scarecrow mask and you dress up as these dipshits for Halloween, more power to you. I don't know, honestly, who I'm speaking to, because after 2 movies, are you really running out to the third one thinking, This time they're gonna get it right. This is the one that's gonna bring it home. Let's talk production. Well, for starters, we open with Hello Darkness, My Own Friend, not the original, not the Disturbed version, which is actually really damn good. No, some version by a chick, really setting the tone for how awful this film's gonna be. Not because women don't have amazing voices, they do, but because we have another butchered song in a butchered movie of a butchered franchise. Visually speaking, it's solid. I mean, the night shots look good. It doesn't have that gross artificial blue tone you see in a lot of day-to-night filter movies. It's serviceable, it's competently executed, so I'm not gonna knock it there. Music sucks, sound effects are ridiculously over the top. No real jump scares in this, so if you're looking to be chilled to the bone with a little pop out, you're not gonna get that. Again though, I don't know why you're going to these movies. Since there is just Maya really running around, we have to find a way to kill more people and do the whole, is Tamara there? Is Tamara home? That's not scary, it's stupid! We intro with a different victim altogether, who I honestly thought was the main character Maya for the first few minutes, but it's a different blonde chick. It goes 3 years earlier than the Maya events, where this young woman goes to a sleazy motel in Venus, and I was thinking to myself, wait, she's already been to this town? She knows these people a little bit. She already had a run-in with them 3 years earlier. And that's when it dawned on me it was a different actress who just looked very similar but blonde and with glasses. That's how little I care about this franchise. I couldn't even tell who the main actress was anymore. To the point, though, of the intro, even that is completely dumb. Because first off, this young woman looks like she has a good head on her shoulders. She's cleaned up. She's pretty. She drives a nice car. Why the fuck is she staying by herself in this Bates Motel looking place? There's no backstory to her. She just seems to be cruising along. She's like, this looks like the sketchiest, seediest place I could hang out at. Why don't I stay here for the night? And oh, the person working behind the counter looks like she wants to kill me. Better go along for this ride. On top of that, it's little things that annoy the shit out of me and take me out of the world. For instance, when she gets a rapping at the front door and the standard is Tamara home or Tabitha or whatever the girl's name is that they're pretending to want to see, this new chick is like, oh, no, I already got my robe, thank you. She's wearing this white robe that apparently she requested from the motel. She's wearing a robe, which is touching her naked body. We don't get to see that because fuck me, why would I want anything good in this film? As she's wandering around this gross looking room, she's over in the bathroom. It's disgusting. There's rust everywhere on the walls. It's all degraded, decrepit. Why are you staying there? Why would you want a robe? Do you think that that's clean? Do you think that they're washing this shit at this place? I'm sorry, it just annoys the hell out of me how many dumb little choices are made throughout this film, with this franchise. Also, that intro has nothing to do with anything. It's just to set the table, to give you a little bit of a chill, I suppose, but it did nothing. It's pointless, like everything else. Nothing really connects. When you have a trilogy, you think of movies like Back to the Future or Lord of the Rings, good movies. The reason they typically run the gamut of a three-parter is they can pull from previous entries. They set things up to pay them off later. There's nothing in The Strangers Chapter 1 or 2 that's really going to tie over to 3 and make you go, oh, wow, that was clever, or wow, I like how they brought this into the mix from the first film. No, outside of Maya once in a while thinking about her loser dead boyfriend who rather go out for cheeseburgers at midnight than bang his hot girlfriend, we have to sit with her doing nothing forever. And really at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. It's not so much the destination. It's about the strangers you met along the way. And we are going to go into the town a little bit more in this film. Just how people stay quiet. They know what's going on. They don't speak up. Again, it's just surface level trash. Nothing really amounts to anything with it. Maya's sister's in this one and her husband, and I think he's a private detective or something. They roll into town and you got some shenanigans there as the side story. But all that stuff's very uninteresting and it feels like I'm watching a horror equivalent of a Hallmark film film whenever those show up. Like, the sister's very, like, prim and proper. She looks like she's about ready to shoot 3 more films with that chick from Mean Girls for Hallmark after this. Lacey Chabert, or however you say that fancy name. There's one hilarious scene. I'm trying not to spoil anything major. I just have to give examples because, I mean, really, who's listening to this review that's planning on seeing this movie? Hands? No? No one? Okay. There's a moment where the sister, her husband, and the private investigator guy are tailing the cop. And so they're going through the woods at night, down the dirt road. Some of the cop is able to spin his SUV down into the woods and cut the lights before these idiots see them. How? Anyway, moving past that, the guy keeps driving. Where did the cop go, huh? And up ahead in the road is an RV, parked across it, blocking off their path. Now, they could just drive around the RV and try to find the cop, but instead they park their vehicle in front of it. The private investigator tells the family to go inside the RV. They're gonna take a look around, and then he locks them in there so he can check out the surrounding area in the middle of the night. What? It's so fucking stupid. Oh my God. I don't care. If you want to stop this video, that's fine, but I just have to keep bitching about it. Later in the movie, Maya has been taken by the strangers for the 800th time. And it's at this point where Scarecrow kind of think he's in love with Maya. He wants her to put on the mask. He's like, mask on. Except for he doesn't talk because they don't want to talk when they have the masks on, except sometimes they do, and Maya plays along and doesn't talk, even though she has no reason to. Okay, so he puts the mask on her, and they go back to the motel, where they park outside, waiting for the new victims for lucky room number 24. It's not that late out. Like, there's still people around, things are happening. They do the is Betsy there, Tabitha, Tamara crap. They don't answer the door, so Sack Lunch kicks it open, breaking the door frame, making a ton of noise, which would have instantly sounded some alarms to people nearby, like, whoa, what's going on? If that didn't, perhaps the blood-curdling screams would of the 2 victims. The one woman is tied to a chair, and she's like, crying uncontrollably. All I was thinking at that time is, kill her! Kill her! I was about to put on the Betty Boop mask and kill her myself. Shh, it's okay. Shh, you go to sleep now. Nobody ever comes in. There's apparently 2 cops in this entire buttfuck town, which I don't know if that's a thing anymore. Maybe it is. Anything goes in the Strangers universe. But then again, everybody's in on this, so maybe they just allow it to happen. But then again, this is a motel, so there's going to be out-of-towners that will hear. I don't know. There's a lot to unpack here. There's really a lot to dissect in this universe. Maya does at one point get control of the cop's car, and she's shot out of a cannon taking off. But then, for some reason, says to herself, listen, I got away. I've dealt with these assholes before. Just drive, bitch. Just drive to freedom. She's going to take this opportunity, though, as she's driving on a pretty small dirt road in the middle of the woods in the middle of the night, to take her eyes off the road for an extended period of time to look through some papers, start rustling through shit, while she's not paying attention to the... A truck almost hits her. And she runs into a tree! At that point, I was just in full body spasms and aches in my chair. I so badly wanted to turn to the audience around me and go, did you see this? Granted, there were only 3 other people in the theater, one of which got up and left right when the movie started. Why would you? There was 30 minutes of trailers. Why would you get up as the movie starts? Maybe he didn't like the hello darkness, my old friend. Just to give you an idea of the type of audience that The Strangers Chapter 3 is pulling in, outside of the guy that gets up every 10 minutes and leaves, when the movie finished, I turned around to the couple sitting behind me. The one dude, morbidly obese, had his gut hanging out the bottom of his shirt. Get a better shirt. Just cover that up. I don't want to see that. He spread eagle on the reclining seats on his phone. I don't know how long he was like that. Could have been the whole movie. He's with his girlfriend, wife, caretaker, I don't know. And she looked like she hated him as much as she hated this movie. And then that guy that kept getting up and leaving, I saw him later in the bathroom as I was peeing. He was across from me doing the same thing, flushes, and he doesn't even attempt to wash his hands, not even a pretend, not a courtesy. I know he was just peeing, but I mean, come on, guys. You're touching what I imagine is a STD-ridden, disgusting, bacteria-filled tiny penis. At least take it to the sink, put on a little soap, wash the hands for a few seconds. Just give me something. But no, that's the stranger's audience for you. People that pee and don't wash their hands. Maybe another pull quote for the poster. Number 20. I often find myself very sympathetic to victims of abuse, mainly because a lot of times they end up going back to the abuser. I'm only bringing this up because there's a new Silent Hill film right now out in theaters called Return to Silent Hill. The third or fourth, I don't even know anymore, attempt to get it right this time. And so I decided, in my infinite wisdom, to plop down some of my hard-earned coin to go watch what I kind of already suspected, nay, fully suspected, was going to be a god-awful pile of shit. And now today I report back to you with my findings. I'm not going to waste any further time. This is going to be a spoiler-free review. Let's begin! Silent Hill is based on a video game. So Return to Silent Hill is also based on a video game. Yeah. Okay, let's begin. This is kind of an interesting one for me to talk about because usually when it comes to video game movies, I'm fairly knowledgeable, having played a good chunk myself. I never found myself sitting down to play through one of these thriller, horror type of films, very mysterious backdrop of Silent Hill, an eerie town that's basically laid to waste, and our lead hero is trying to pick up the pieces and figure out what the hell happened. Since I have not played the game, the movie has the extra step of having to really explain what the hell I'm watching. And I have to tell you, friends, it does a terrible job. In fact, I was confused pretty much from beginning to end. Not so much by the intricate, detailed plot points that were getting laid out in front of me. No, I was confused what the hell the director and writer was thinking. I'm sorry, writers. There are several in this film, if you want to call it a film. And I believe this is based on a couple of the games smashed together. And you can tell, because it felt like two different storylines converged into one giant pile of ass. But enough with the ad hominem attacks. Let's get into the real issues I have outside of the story being a complete mess. We have a lead protagonist who comes off as a straight up NPC, non-playable character for those that don't know the lingo of today. He walks around with almost no personality. Occasionally a tear is shed, but for the most part, you have no idea what this guy's feeling or going through outside of he misses his girlfriend Mary, who went missing under questionable circumstances. What happened to Mary? Is she still alive? Is she dead? I mean, it's pretty obvious she's dead, but I don't know if the movie wants us to think that or not, because it is such a mess narratively speaking. So we watch as he spends the first couple minutes of this film getting acquainted with her, meeting her on a road, as he lights up a joint and goes like 95 miles an hour. That whole generic shit that we've seen a million times, where the dude's cruising around the roads, almost hitting a semi-truck, and then he even almost runs over this poor girl Mary's luggage. And that's how they meet. Keep in mind, she was about to get on a bus. The bus driver's like laying on the horn, but she's trying to pick up her suitcase full of shit. And she's like, just go, just go. Like, he was there waiting for her for maybe 5 seconds. Lady, if you want to get on the bus, I'm sure he'd understand if you were like, hold on a second, I'm retrieving my goods. But we don't ever see the bus driver, nor do I believe we see any passengers in the bus. Is that by design? Is it possible this is all a projection inside the mind of our lead protagonist, James? These are the questions the film never really truly answers, and you're left to ponder them if you cared to ponder. But I gotta tell you, I couldn't wait for it to just be over. So the story is narratively a mess because you basically are spending an hour and 45 minutes inside of his fever dream where you're not sure what's real and what's pretend. And at the end of the day, you don't really care because you feel nothing for any of the characters in this film, of which there are a scant trace amount, with James getting the bulk of the time on camera. This so-called long-lost love, Mary, we spent a total of maybe 5 minutes with her. So we don't even have a connection with this character once she's lost to us or to James. Again, what am I watching here? So let's get to the scares. Let's get to the thrills, as it were. The entire point of this film is that James is haunted by decisions made in the past. What those decisions are, unclear. We're here to unravel them with our lead protagonist. He's going to receive a mysterious letter that invites him to go find Mary back at their old stomping grounds in Silent Hill, hence the name, Return to Silent Hill. And so our adventure begins. He gets back to this place, which looks like fucking Chernobyl at this point. There's debris everywhere. The buildings are all completely run down and condemned. Nary a person in sight. I think he bumps into a grand total of 3 on his misadventure. But within the first 5 minutes of stepping foot in this inhospitable dumpster fire of a place, he is immediately thrust into a situation where an armless creature with no eyes is like shooting out black ink goo crap everywhere. It's like acidic, it's melting stuff. And his response is, yeah, that just happened. Looks like another day at the races for old James. Let's press forward and find out where Mary is. Scoot-de-doo. And it's because of his lack of emotion or reaction to what are clearly very frightening and completely insane scenarios. That's just one of, a dozen of them. It doesn't allow us to really get into the mindset of what this guy's feeling, let alone feel any of the fears we could have had if this was based in any sort of reality. But because the movie makes it Billy crystal clear that some of the stuff you're seeing, or maybe all of it, I don't actually know at the end of the day, is inside of his head, you're just watching a bunch of nonsense play out and hope that at some point it'll come to an end. All right, so the story's bad. I'm sure the game is much better. I've been told that Silent Hill 2, which I believe a lot of this is based around, is phenomenal. The story is perfect. And I would imagine it's because the game takes its time breadcrumbing the information to the player who's controlling this person and along for this ride and understanding as he goes on. But we don't get that. We have like an hour and a half to speed roll this thing, get through the greatest hits of the game, which means any of the emotion that was attached to it, any of the aha revelations are set aside for some fan service bullshit. I would imagine most people are going to a horror thriller for horrors and thrills, not to be confused with whores. Although some of those, dead nurse chicks, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of got something out of them. Actually, if you want to know the truth, I may have got myself a new fetish because of this film, and that's gonna be spider women that are completely caked out. There is this spider chick, fully CG, it looked like most of the time, running up walls and jumping all over the place. And this camera is like up in her business, just giving us the full bakery on display. And all I was thinking during this was, that animator was having a fucking ball doing this character. And now, unfortunately, it's the only way I can achieve climax. As for the scares, none. They're nowhere to be found. And that's mainly because I'm watching what boils down to an Unreal Engine 3 animation taking place. I believe we're up to Unreal Engine 5 now. That might not be right, but we're a couple back, I guess is what I'm saying, in terms of graphic capabilities. It really does feel like our character James was digitally thrown inside of the Silent Hill video game. There was a TV show on Nickelodeon way back in the day. I'm super young, of course. I can't remember what it was called, but it was kind of like Double Dare, but video game based, where they would pick different parts of the board. And at the end of the episode, the contestants would get transported into a video game, which was really just them in front of a green screen and then hopping once in a while. That's really what this film felt like. They put the actor in a green screen, and then they just put all sorts of crap around him to make it seem eerie. But they clearly didn't have the budget. This isn't Avatar, okay? James Cameron isn't blowing $400 million on a Silent Hill movie. So what we have are CG street lamps instead. We couldn't film on a location with a real street lamp? And speaking of production, that's a whole other ball of dicks. We have a character in this later that has a wig so comically bad because our actress is pulling double duty, I believe, playing Mary and this other individual. And so she has the brunette hair at one point, and then she has this hilariously bad Megan 2.0 wig from that scene where Megan takes an actual wig and puts it on. It might be the same wig, if I'm gonna be honest with you. And also, this character, Emily, that she plays, looks like she was transported right out of one of those crappy Resident Evil movies. She sticks out like crazy here. She's got this really colorful ensemble on with the stomach showing, which was the style at the time. She's just completely out of place in this. Since I unfortunately cannot speak for the gamers out there, they're gonna have to make up their own mind. I would suggest skipping this one. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the reaction gamers are gonna have who love the silent video games is going to be reminiscent of how I felt watching Max Payne for the first time. A video game I loved turned into a movie I don't believe I finished. It was so awful. Casting Mark Wahlberg as Max Payne, already a major red flag for me, but then seeing the film, I don't think I got more than 10 minutes in. And that probably would have been the same for this return to Silent Hill had I not paid money and wanted to review the thing. I stuck it out for the long haul. If I had to give positives, I don't know why, I'm not required to by law, but I will say there is some decent makeup and costume design. Some of the creatures look really cool. Pyramid Head, for the 5 minutes he's on display, looks all right. I wouldn't say he looks great. He looks kind of like a wrestler, which is the mask thing on. And again, my beautiful Spider-Woman, have to tip the hat to her. Return to Silent Fart is rated R for swearing, for some, I guess there's nudity. Yeah, there's nudity. I think the Spider-Woman has maybe some spider boobs. There's some stuff here and there. It's not attractive because, you know, it's all gross and it's got a layer of CG bullshit on top. And obviously for some blood, gore, and violence, but the gore is never gory to a point where I'm like, oh my stars, because it all looks so fake. Nothing looks real. The actor half the time didn't look real, and when he has a beard on later, holy shit, that's funny. That beard is atrociously bad. So there you have it, my thoughts on Return to Silent Hill. I can't say it made me a believer in these films going forward. All I can say is, there's probably an interesting TV series that could be made from this material. It feels like there's enough to build into something fascinating over a 8 or 9 miniseries arc. But I really don't know anything. You know what would be better? Just play the game. Probably that. Just play the games and experience it the way it was meant to be experienced. All right, that's all I have for you. Let me know your thoughts on Return to Silent Hill if you wasted your time going out to watch it. Hopefully you saved that hard-earned cash. Even with a movie pass, which is what I pay for, I still felt a little ripped off. Because you lose time at the end of the day, and time is precious. It's a commodity we don't have an endless supply of. Number 19. There's a brand new psychological thriller in theaters right now, created by a YouTuber based on a video game. So we're off to a great start. After the 2-hour and 7-minute movie was over, I thought to myself, you know what, Adam? Maybe you were a little too hard on Chris Stuckman. And then I said to myself, nah, that was accurate. But today I'm talking about Iron Lung, an R-rated 2026 experience, written, directed, acted, financed by Markiplier himself. The movie's already a massive success. I'm sure his 30+ million subscribers are eating it up for the most part. But what does a regular schlubby movie critic have to say that doesn't really know much about the guy or the video game it's based on? I hated it. As nice as it would be able to say, I love this movie, it was a great 2 hours that just flew by, and then maybe I could get some of his subscribers to come over and follow this show. I just can't lie about it. That's just disgusting. It's disingenuous, and it's not me. So what positives are there about this film in Iron Lung? Well, to take a page from IGN's typical game reviews, I could just say, it really makes you feel like you're in an iron lung, because it's miserable. The biggest tragedy of all of this is the idea is pretty damn awesome. It's set in a post-apocalyptic universe where the Great Rapture has taken place. The stars have all burned out. Planets no longer hospitable. The scant few survivors are up in space stations, adrift in the vast emptiness of space. Now, I already know some of you people are like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. It does. It does sound amazing. And that's all it does is sound amazing because you don't see any of that. You don't see any of that. It's told through some text when the movie starts. And that's pretty much how all of this movie is going to play out. Everything is told to you in this, like you're listening on an old-timey PA system in school during the Monday morning announcements. Now, as I previously stated, Markiplier is doing everything in this movie, and he really is a one-man show here, as he is one of like 2 people you see on camera ever. I know legendary voice actor Troy Baker was in the credits. You don't see him, as far as I could tell, unless he was a blob in the background. Just a disembodied voice like all the rest. The rest of the premise is incredibly simple and straightforward. Markiplier's character is simply referred to as Convict, and he has been given the terrible honor of taking part in the Iron Lung program, where he's gonna sit in this one small little boxed area for 2+ hours as it dives deeper and deeper into the blood ocean. Wait, blood ocean? Yeah, that's right, there's a blood ocean in this movie. Kinda. Again, it's mainly just told to us. We don't really see the blood ocean. I don't even know if we have more than one shot of the outside Iron Lung ship that he's in. The whole damn movie is pretty much interior in this ship. And the disappointing part about me not liking this movie is you might say, well, this just isn't your type of film. Wrong! I fucking eat up a good old-fashioned bottle episode. Nom, 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 nom. You put someone in a precarious situation, you typically have my attention. Think Buried with Ryan Reynolds. Think 127 Hours. That movie is gold. Think Phone Booth. These are movies that basically center around one little location, and the character has to figure out how to get out of the situations. Location, of course, short for location. The main problem with this film, one of several, is that our main character has no character at all. He is a blank slate, which works, I suppose, if you're playing a third or first person video game, not so much when you're trying to relate to the person, because you're not the one making the moves. You're not controlling the action. You're just along for the ride. A very, very, very slow one at that. But let's get to this character for a second. We know virtually nothing about the guy. To Mark's credit, he's perfectly solid here. I didn't have any issues with his acting. Granted, I don't really know how he presents himself on YouTube in his show because I've been living under a rock for over a decade and I just never saw his content. I'm sure it's great. But since I don't know him in any way, shape, or form, I was able to at least enjoy his performance here and not look at him like anyone else. That also could be a major problem and a setback for me because he has such a huge baked-in fan base, and from the little bit of research I did, he seems to be very well beloved. People are going to bring that into the movie with them. They will enjoy seeing him just in any way, shape, or form. So they already are attaching some of those personal feelings to the character he's playing. And I feel like that's kind of a requirement in order to really enjoy any of this. You have to love the guy going in. Because if you don't know him, there's nothing to know here. He's just this kind of empty vessel who gets concerned, he breaks down a few times, he gets angry a little bit, but outside of that, we just get little breadcrumbs of some history he has and how he became a prisoner, but we don't see it, we don't feel it, and we don't really understand it at all, which will be a through line to this entire film. You don't know what the hell's going on, because it's artsy, it's experimental. It makes you think. All I was thinking was, when the hell is this gonna end? It is way too long for a bottle episode. It also boggles the mind how you center a story around a small submarine diving deep into a blood ocean and you don't show us that? You don't give us the epic visuals of a sub going through the blood or any of the other horror elements that get brought up. Because at the end of the day, this is supposed to be a psychological horror thriller. It's supposed to scare you, I think? I don't really know, because I felt nothing throughout it outside of annoyance. There are a lot of triggers in this film, one of which is the photo machine that's going to go off non-stop for this 2-hour runtime. and repeat and repeat and repeat. The reason for the photo machine is simple. Our character is on a secret mission that he doesn't even really understand. He needs to go deep down and start taking photos at specific coordinates. And what shows up is a black and white, pretty messy looking, I don't even know what. Sometimes there seems to be a creature involved. Sometimes it's just some swirls and patterns, maybe some teeth, possibly a penis. I don't know, it's hard to tell. But these are gonna act as the primary purpose for the scares. Like, what's gonna show up on the screen? Again, though, you hear this noise so often, it becomes just like embedded into your mind and you can't get it out. The only other action involved is Mark kind of just throwing himself against walls as he pretends the ship is getting rammed by things. It's like, whoa, whoa. And speaking of action, the camera work here is going to do a bulk of the work. When it's not incredibly zoomed in on shit, like 80% of the film, it's going to lose control of its own functions and fly all over the place, mainly in the final act. I don't know if they ran out of budget, so they masked it by just doing this a lot with the camera. But my gods, is it hard to see what's happening in that final 15 or so minutes. This is one of those sticky movies where the cinematography is good, but also horseshit bad. The lighting can be atmospheric at times, giving a little shade of dead space, but a good chunk of the time, it's way too hard to make out what's going on. It is a very dark film all around. And because it's just in one environment that doesn't change all that much, you really don't have anything to feast your eyes on other than soft focus close-ups of things. Some blood trickling down the side of the forehead, sweat beating off the nostril, and about 85 different Dutch angles of that speaker. A speaker you will become very accustomed to very quickly, as the bulk of the conversation is going to be coming out of that bad boy, as that is the only link our protagonist has to anything happening in the outside world. And by outside world, I mean the station that he was dropped from, wherever that is. There are so many unknowns in this movie, so many things that are either overlooked or intentionally obtuse to the point of why? I don't have any clue. I don't even know where this fucking blood ocean is at. Is it just floating in space, or is it on a dead planet? Perhaps they said at one time, you know what would have helped? An exterior shot, an establishing shot, something, anything. And because this movie is artsy by design, don't expect any sort of satisfying conclusion, because that story, my friend, is up for you to decide. The pacing of this movie would be something akin to the forming of the iceberg that hits the Titanic. We just don't see it happen. The whole movie's centered around the forming of the glacier. Some may go easier on this movie and say, hey, at least he made his dream come true. He's just a YouTuber at the end of the day who put up his own money to make this movie on the big screen. You should be happy and applaud him for that. Well, yeah, okay, that's great, but there are a lot of millionaires out there that could do this if they wanted to too. I don't even know what to say to that. Like, if I had millions of dollars that I could put up, I would make my own movie too. And if it sucked, I really hope people would tell me. So really, at the end of the day, I'm the self-appointed hero in all of this by telling you the movie blows. There are elements of this film that could work, that probably should work if it was more competently executed, but it's squandered instead. Here's an example: the oxygen in the film, symbolized by 4 boxes that are white, and then they go away when the oxygen is depleting. All right, in a movie, say Apollo 13, for example, that would be a major plot point for the heroes to overcome, and they do. But you always have it looming in the background. Holy shit, they're gonna run out of oxygen. This is life and death situation. But in this film, it's almost more of a countdown clock to how much time is left in this miserable flick. Another phenomenal movie, The Martian. He's up on Mars, stranded. He's gotta get these potatoes growing, or he's fucked because he's not gonna have any food. Well, out of nowhere, a freak storm rips the whole thing out, and he has to either start from scratch, try to figure out how to make it work, or just give up and die. You feel for him. You understand his character. You've spent time with his character ahead, so you know what makes him tick, you know what motivates him, and you know how driven he can be. With the iron lung, who is this guy? I know almost nothing about him. And the oxygen is never an issue. Like, he looks at it once in a while, and he's like, yeah, oxygen's low. I don't know how it's not out yet, but he's never having a hard time breathing. There's no reader indicating how toxic the air is becoming. And that is a prime example, but definitely not the only one you can see echoed throughout every decision in this thing. There is a point fairly early on when he screws something up and it has dire consequences for other people involved. He didn't mean to do it, he was upset, and when he asks for a status update later, he gets one, but we don't see those consequences play out. We don't feel it at all because it really doesn't matter at all anyways. So I talked about the acting. It's serviceable. It's a lot better than the Stranger Things gave me in the last season, I'll say that much. But it's definitely not elevating any of the material either. It's just competent enough. The story does not have near enough going on to justify this runtime, nor does the execution deliver on any scares, any intense moments, or any thrills. So that's a dud. Now we have production. Well, visually speaking, I talked about it. It's a little all over the place for the most part. It's just a muddy looking, messy, dark film. Occasionally though, you get some pretty close-up shots that look nice. But they squander such an interesting location. A blood ocean, that sounds badass. Musically, I heard some stuff peeking through here and there. Nothing was blowing me away in the slightest. It definitely was, again, not elevating things or ratcheting up the intensity at all. It's just competently there. And so where this leaves me is the film was an absolute waste of time. And it sucks because it's at least an original story. I mean, it's based on a video game, but it's an original movie. And again, obviously Markiplier wanted to make it. He had passion behind it. It just does not deliver. Unless, again, you're like a big fan of his, you probably will like anything he puts out. Again, I recently forced myself to go to that shitty Melania movie. That was awful. But the audience there, clearly fans of her work, were just eating it up. Everything was just the best. And so this isn't really a review for the super fan out there. This is a review for people that thought maybe the trailer looked interesting and they were gonna check it out, but they might have been a little hesitant. I am pretty damn confident you're gonna hate this thing. Because after about 45 minutes, I was squirming and moving in my chair, just wishing something would happen of interest, just wishing we could get outside of this sub for a few shots at least. But it takes damn near an eternity for things to finally get anywhere somewhat interesting. And again, the ball is dropped every time it moves somewhere worth engaging in. All right, well, there you have it. My thoughts on the Iron Lung. Clearly, not a fan. Number 18. Mother Mary? More like Mother of God. I just watched this new A24 allegorical, metaphorical, fuckaphorical film where Anne Hathaway spends an hour and a half in a room with another chick and they scissor each other. Okay, I made that sound amazing. That's not what I meant. I meant they sit around talking about their feelings and then they take a literal scissors and cut each other up a little bit. What I painted before would have been incredible. Instead, though, you get treated to art house dreck by the guy that gave us that movie where a woman cries into a piece of cake for like 9 minutes straight. And that other movie that has the slow-moving camera pans to nothing at all. It was called The Green Knight. The first one was called A Ghost Story, and this one, a little bit of a ghost story too. As our Devil Wears Prada needs to get ready for the Jellicoe Ball. That was a Cats reference, subscribe. But she's scared to death to wear the color red. But what's the reason she's afraid of this color? Oh, you're gonna have to watch the film to find out. Or better yet, just listen to me bitch about it for a few minutes instead. Let's talk about Mother Mary. In case you watched the trailers and thought this was going to be some psychedelical pop experience featuring Anne Hathaway proving she can sing, she can dance, after all misses his pants. And hopefully she loses them in the process. This is rated R. And our girl AH is no secret to showing off the goods. Unfortunately, she doesn't in this. Which is too bad because a perv like myself really only had that to look forward to after about 25 minutes went by and I realized I was in for a world of hurt. If you're one of those snobby moviegoers or critics that looked at a film like Michael and said, this is basic dreck, Mother Mary might be the movie for you. Because it's not basic, it's just dreck. And I go into this a little sad because I did not know what this film was about. I do not watch trailers for movies if I can help it. There's always 25 minutes before the AMC. I'll just pace outside until the movie actually starts. So I only saw a poster for this film. I heard Anne Hathaway sings in it. There's some pop songs. I'm into the pop shit, all right? I'm a Swiftie. I celebrate Sabrina Carpenter's entire catalog. You throw me Olivia Rodrigo, I don't throw it away. Alas, that's not at all what this is. In fact, there's only a couple songs and you're only getting tastes of them. Nothing really lasts for more than 30 seconds. There's more music in the film Crap by M. Night Shyamalan. I'm sorry, I meant Trap. No, I meant what I said. This film is actually about the relationship between the performer and the person behind the performer. In this case, her seamstress, her clothing designer, the one that's been with her since the beginning of her career. She has designed all of her beautiful fabrics, all of the halos she wears on her head. She's really given her the identity that's made her a star. Anne Hathaway's character, Mother Mary, she has a name, I forgot what it is. She really didn't appreciate the work Sam was putting in all those years and closed the door on their relationship because she needed to reinvent herself. She needed to start over, which meant being in rooms with a bunch of hack yes men and women instead of sticking with what was tried and true and worked. A relationship that had blossomed over the years that went much deeper than the surface. These were not just colleagues. These were not just work buddies. No, these were kind of kindred souls, attached by a thread, or a fabric, if you will, in the case of this film. Because as the story starts to unspool, as we start to get underneath the surface of this relationship, we find they have both been visited by the same red ghost entity thing. And if they can understand what it all means, what it represents, then perhaps they can mend their tattered relationship. And Mother Mary, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, can be reborn anew with her trusted ally once again by her side. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the first 25 minutes had me on the hook. I was actually really into the film when it was normal. Mother Mary only has a few short days to get a brand new dress created for her big comeback performance. She took some time off after a tragic accident took place on stage. So she traveled across the land to the only person she trusts with such a task, her old clothing designer. For about 90% of the movie, this is going to be a two-woman show, as they're held up in the seamstress's giant barn laboratory, getting measurements, looking at fabrics, testing them against the look of Anne Hathaway's beautifully sculpted face and lovely shape of her body. Again, no nudity, because fuck me, that's why. I enjoyed the volleys back and forth they shared with each other. Michaela Cole does a terrific job in this for the first half. And it's not her fault in the second. Things just get really weird, and not in a fun, interesting way, just in a kind of sad, I don't want to be here way. But in the first act, when things are kind of playing out like a normal movie, just contained in a bottle episode of sorts, the rain tattering outside on the rooftop of the barn, some great lighting indoors, a very eerie atmosphere surrounding these women, the exchanges are solid. Mother Mary is a broken shell of a woman. She's timid, she's quiet. There's something there that wasn't there before, Mrs. Potts. And Sam absolutely notices this, wasting no time to start pricking at Anne Hathaway, start trying to figure out what has changed in her life, why she's come crawling back. But then things get supernatural. Then we get the flashback that kind of ruins the film. I knew I was in trouble as soon as I saw that dame come walking back into my life. Yes, a couple years have gone by, but I remember her mouth-breathing ass like it was yesterday. The way her Bugs Bunny teeth fold over her bottom lip at all times. The way she attempts to act, but in no way, shape, or form can. I'm of course referring to Fucka Twigs. She goes by FKA Twigs. I could only imagine it means Fucka Twigs, of course. Everyone remembers her performance from the riveting film The Crow, the new edition, where the crow goes to that weird crow place I called Croatia, and Fucka Twigs is his girlfriend. It sucked. Fucka Twigs slander aside, that flashback really got me worried about where this film was headed, and that's really when everything starts to flip on its head. From there on, the film becomes much more abstract. The dialogue also loses its luster as the witty Gilmore Girls-esque back and forth snappiness turn into these boring monologues that endlessly go on until the break of dawn. The movie thankfully is not 2 hours, but it's certainly not 90 minutes. We're pushing around an hour and 50 with this thing. It is rated R. I guess for some scissor play, and not the kind I referred to earlier, unfortunately. No, it's just them kind of cutting themselves a little bit, and then you see gross blood, and there's some finger penetration inside of the hands. Penetration, short for penetration, of course. And unless that sounds appealing to you, I can assure you it's not. There's really nothing more to see in this film. Well, unless you consider Anne Hathaway convulsing and dry humping the air for a few seconds on the ground as some sort of a cinematic experience you need to have, because there is a section of the film where she's going to do an interpretive dance to a song without actually playing the song. So she's just silently moving around, thrusting at the ground, spider crawling around on the hardwood floor. It's fun to stay at the it's fun to have it for the same I'm just burning doing the neutron dance. I'm just burning doing the neutron dance. After watching that for 2 minutes, ending with her doing some sort of a downward dog thrust, I thought to myself, well, great. Now this is the only way I can achieve climax. Because Anne Hathaway does look fantastic in this film, even when dressed in some stupid-ass garbs. Touching on the production briefly, I did mention it looks excellent. It's lit very well. Again, it's easy to do when you are only in one place for most of the film. There's not like a ton of effects in here outside some of the stage presentations and that weird red ghost thing they go to a few times. It all looks pretty practically done. Nothing was egregiously out of place or took me out of the film. Now, granted, I wanted to take myself out of the film before it was done, but I sat through it. Okay, this is what I do, people. I'm like the Bryan Adams of the movie critic community. I mean, I do have Adam in my name. Everything I do it for you. Unfortunately, Mother Mary did nothing for me. This is a David Lowery joint. If you've seen A Ghost Story or A Knight's Tale, you should know he does have some pretty bombastic, cool-ass music infused throughout. This is no exception. There is a pretty solid score that comes and goes throughout the film, but when you don't hear that, it's just a lot of silent dialogue with rain pouring outside, which I have to tell you, at my old age now, I wanted to curl up with a blanket in that seat in the movie theater and just take a nice nap. So many times I was about to phase out. Again, though, I forced myself through it so that you do not have to. There you have it, my thoughts on Mother Mary. This one did not do a single thing for me. So far, A Ghost Story is sadly the best I've seen of his. I think he does have it in him to make a movie that hits me properly, though. If you enjoyed this one, more power to you. It's just not my cup of tea. I told you what to expect, though, and hopefully, if you haven't seen the movie, I gave you enough to go on whether to make that choice or not to plunge into a ticket. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to dance my way out. Number 17. Netflix has a brand new streaming exclusive. Die a little every time I say those words out loud, because they're never good. But out of all the crap that useless streaming platform shits out every year, this one had the most potential. It's got sharks in it. How do you really go wrong with sharks? On top of that, we have a natural disaster twist, as a hurricane is taking down a poor coastal town, bringing with it a feeding frenzy of bull sharks and one pregnant, pissed-off great white. Sounds like a great night. It was not. All right, let's get into this. Hang 10, motherfuckers. We got a new shark film. One that takes a playbook out of every Roland Emmerich natural disaster film, having us follow a couple different sets of people. You have the pregnant chick that's ready to pop that bun in her oven anytime now. You have the wise doctor trying to get back into town. He's also played by the only recognizable actor in the film, Jaimin Hansu, and by played I mean he's cashing a check. This is a very easy role for him to play. So we have Praegers, we got doctor team, and we have a trio of kids held up in a house by a couple of rednecks who have taken them in for foster care. But they don't really foster care about these kids at all. They're cashing checks, having steak dinners, while these kids are getting fed scraps from the bottom of the dog dish. With all these different plot threads going on, how could they possibly tie it all together in a nice, satisfactory way? Well, they don't. That's how. Instead, it's the most bare bones, basic ass script imaginable, incredibly dull and lifeless across the board, which is insane with such a fun, easy premise. A giant storm rages on. People are trapped inside. It's basically Hard Rain without Christian Slater driving around on a jet ski through a school. On top of that, you got the trio of scientists trying to get back into the town a la Day After Tomorrow. Hell, there's a more recent example that came out not that many years back called Crawl, which just replaces the bull sharks with alligators. Now, I'm not going to say this movie's outright a turd factory. It is only 90 minutes, which gives it a lot of grace. Production-wise, not too shabby. It actually looks very nice. High 4K visuals, some very impressive, realistic-looking storms, and there are a couple moments in the movie where I paused for a second and said, damn, that was a cool shot. That was impressive. One that immediately jumps out to my mind is one of the girls is swimming around in the water. She's got a little head flashlight on, and there's a couple of little bull sharks going after her. Well, right before they get up, they cruise the other direction, scamper off, and that's when she realizes they're scared of a larger predator. So she points the flashlight down, and you see illuminated under her feet this massive great white creepily coasting on by. That was a great shot in a movie that otherwise does not have any buildup at all. In fact, almost all the shark attacks come out of nowhere. A person will just be talking and they're down, they come back up, they're missing an arm. There is zero tension, zero room for a scene to breathe at all. And listen, I love me a good shark movie. Deep Blue Sea's badass, Jaws is obviously legendary. I really enjoy The Shallows as well. And something those movies all have in common are the sharks are vicious. They are frightening to look at. But 90% of the time, the bull sharks feel more like crocodiles or even geese. They just kind of pop up, attack someone, and then disappear again. Even if they are realistically proportioned, I don't want to see realistically proportioned. I want to see something a little bit more grandiose. Something that gives me some scares and some thrills and chills. Not this mamby-pamby bullshit. So let's get through the paper-thin premise and go from there. The film starts with a Category 5 hurricane hitting this small town, unbeknownst to some of the idiots who haven't evacuated yet. I guess this is just another walk in the park for them, because once that thing hits, once the water starts pouring through the levees, breaking them wide open and gushing down the roads, the kids and the adults still left in the town are like, well, I'll be damned, I wasn't expecting this. Making matters worse is a dude driving a meat truck. I don't actually know what the hell this thing is. It's just a big semi with what appears to be meat sauce. Like meat preservatives? I don't even know. But that thing gets wrecked and it spills all over into the water, acting as a sort of chum for our sharks to be drawn to. There is meat juice everywhere. Now, even though there are several storylines going on, our primary focus is going to be on the pregnant chick who looks like a Temu version of Keira Knightley. I call her Keira Daly. She's stuck between a tree and a hard place as she is rammed into the branches, completely stuck. But don't worry, a couple guys notice her problems and head to her aid by getting, checks notes, a wire cutters. What? Dumb and Dumber attempt to unwedge her by bolt cutting some of the branches, but the sharks have a better option. Die. These guys get taken out so quickly you have no time to even really appreciate what's taking place. And that's when our main protagonist is going to jump into the mix and actually save her. She's scared, she has anxiety or something, I don't know, it's not fleshed out at all. Basically, she tried to leave her house, it rained on her, and she's like, I can't do it! And she runs back inside and kind of like freaks out against the door. She wears a yellow shirt through most of the movie, so I'm going to call her April O'Neil. I think her name was Hunter or something akin to Hunter, but I looked it up on IMDb and her name is nowhere to be listed and she's like the main character. Make that make sense. Is it possible I made her up in some sort of a fever dream because this movie was so dull all the way through? I was going in and out of consciousness without even knowing it. That's entirely possible. Oh, I almost forgot about the one other characteristic of April O'Neil outside of she gets kind of scared and timid around rain or some shit. Also, she lost her mom. This is important because I don't know. It doesn't add any character growth, no development. There's nothing revealed about the mom. We just get one flashback where her mother is showing her how to use a Nerf gun. And since I knew nothing about the mom other than that, I nicknamed her Nerfy. She's the mom on the block that was great with the Nerf gun. If you needed to learn how to aim the thing, you bring your Nerf gun to old Nerfy. She'll show you how to do it. What's the point of it? What's the point of any of this? Because of how the movie looks, again, visually it's pretty, it's high res, it's crisp, and the effects are solid, but it's very drab. And it's always raining, rain tattering onto the windshields of cars, rolling down the bodice of a window, tickling the rooftops nearby. It's basically a glorified 90-minute sound machine. And boy, how is it lulling me to sleep. I say boy, how now. Oh, another thing I need to point out is the music or lack thereof, adding to the sound machine quality this film has. There's nothing to excite you. There is no bombastic because there's no hype building up these sharks. They don't aura farm at all. They just show up and leave like it's nothing. The only song I recall in the whole movie is by freaking Vanessa Carlton. I mean, that's all I have to say for people that know the name Vanessa Carlton. She only had one song. Making my way downtown, walking fast, faces pass and I'm homebound. Anyway, she does what the boys don't. She Tony Hawks out the second-story window, slides down a nearby rooftop that's floating by, as one does, and then hops on top of the car of Pregos, a.k.a. Budget Keira Knightley, a.k.a. Keira Daly. She doesn't even have a bolt cutters for this adventure. She has a fucking knife from the kitchen. She cuts through the top of the car. Welcome to Earth. Oh no, she doesn't do that. That's Will Smith in Independence Day, a much more enjoyable movie to watch. She starts hacking at the trees with the knife, and it really takes very little before she can start breaking those branches, making me think that those idiot guys earlier could have just snapped a couple barehanded, but they're dead, so who cares? And so the rest of their boring-ass story is going to be Pregos and April O'Neil in the top-level bedroom while Keira Daly is attempting to give birth. Or I should say, attempting to avoid giving birth. But she's crowning. You better believe she's crowning, baby. And I couldn't help but think to myself, if this movie had any sort of balls on it, I would see a fucking shark, mouth open at the edge of the bed, waiting for that baby to shoot out and right into its gullet. But no! This movie's cowardly! I don't get to see a shark eat a baby in this one. Spoiler, neither do you. So their dull-ass boring stories going on with her just freaking out in the bedroom. Meanwhile, the Three Stooges, aka the foster kids, are dealing with their shitty foster parents who thankfully get taken out pretty early on. When the new parents attempt to get into the car and bust out a Dodge, sharks attack them, taking out the guy's hand. Ah, fuck! Oh wait, he's like a hick, but he's probably a Californian hick who's never actually been to the country before, so he's attempting it. Like, oh my God, I just got my hand bit off, don't you know? I tell you what, by a shark. Ooh-wee, that hurts. Hey, you get back in that house. Don't you make me get a switch. I'll get a switch off right now. I should point out there will be spoilers in this review or bitch fest, whatever you want to call it. I put no value on Netflix movies, and neither should you. I laughed heartily, though, by not only him getting his hand ripped off by a shark, but also watching him get his ass chomped on for a while and getting pulled underwater, only to resurrect like 35 minutes later back in the house. He comes up out of the water. I've been here the whole time, I tell you what. Now go get me a switch. As far as the direction is concerned, it is very all over the place. For the first hour, it's just kind of treading water. Water pun. And then later, the director goes, oh, I really like Edgar Wright. I should do like an Edgar Wright thing for a second. So I'm going to do a lot of quick cuts with funny sound effects while the kids attempt to make some sort of a TNT bomb they found in a very comedic fashion. That is the only time he ever does this slapdash cut shit. And then for the final crescendo, oh my God, is it a doozy. Keira Daly goes outside where she will shit out her baby in the water. That's gonna lead to a staph infection. I didn't even realize she was giving birth. She's just kind of swimming around and then She sets the newborn baby down on nearby wreckage and says to her, "Hang on, baby, mommy's gotta go kill a shark." What? Every lame-ass, boring character in this movie suddenly becomes a badass in 5 minutes flat. The trio of kids who were playing the floor is lava earlier, sidestepping any inch of water they can find on tables and chairs, are then suddenly in a Baby Driver movie, making bombs, blowing up sharks, high-fiving, and then cruising out of there, winking to the camera. And the same goes for Pregos. She was freaked out the whole movie until she had a baby and suddenly, Mama Bear activated. This fucking shark is cruising for a bruising. Right after her, she finds a convenient nearby piece of wooden steak. The shark comes at her and she goes and stabs it underneath of the mouth somehow. How would that even work? This shark is flying at her. You're gonna have no momentum underwater. Like, you're gonna be going real slow. So it'd be more like and then the shark sees the baby. We do a baby cam where it's going inside the mouth of the shark. Really just wanted to see a baby get eaten by a shark, I guess, is the takeaway. Subscribe. You're probably wondering, but what about the Dr. Uncle guy, the scientist dude and his buddies that was trying to get into town? Oh, don't worry, they make it in the final act, only to throw a little electric taser thing into the water, spooking away a shark. That was their entire contribution to this film. I kept waiting, hoping Morgan Freeman was gonna show up and go, "Look, we just want the money." But no, this wasn't Hard Rain. Betty White isn't nearby cracking wise. This is yet another shitty, straight-to-streaming Netflix film. The bare minimum was done. The script is horrible. The tone, all over the place in the ending. The sharks aren't even cool, except for one shot of the great white ominously swimming underneath the girl. That's it, that's the only shot. Oh wait, never fucking mind. There is a final great white sequence where one of the other bull sharks is going after, I don't know if it's Kira pregnant or if it's April O'Neil, but the bull shark's about to get her and whoosh, the great white shot out of a cannon catches it right before it kills her. I assume this great white, who's also pregnant, felt some sort of a kinship with the other woman who just had her kid. I'd like to imagine the great white looked at Kira Daly, tipped the hat, and said, "You know, you and I, we're not so different, you and I. Just a couple of moms trying to make it in this topsy-turvy world. Anyway, I gotta go shit this thing out. See you in the next film." And yeah, they even took the insulting time to set up a sequel with the final reveal that another hurricane's coming in. That's right, Modern Sharknado will return. And by Modern Sharknado, I mean none of the fun, none of the creativity, none of the schlockiness, just boring, dull trash. Boring, dull thrash, you could say. Kill me! Well, there you have it. My thoughts on Trash. What a complete way. Well, I'm sorry, Thrash. No, I was right the first time. Number 16. When a twisted psycho goes around capturing people and viciously murdering them in a recreation of a cult classic called Faces of Death, only one person stands in his way. A thick pill-popping lesbian. The most worthy of adversaries. Look out, straight as an arrow stoic Chris Pratt from Mercy. Get the hell out of the way, abusive father Ice Cube from War of the Worlds. There's a new guy in the chair, and this one is a woman. I just got done watching the brand new Faces of Death. Faces of Death is a remake, of course, but it's a meta remake, kind of like Anaconda, where within the movie, it acknowledges the original. And in fact, the original is the main driver for the villain in this film, as he's going to recreate scenes from that classic. Are we calling that a classic? I mean, it's old, I guess, if that's the definition you want. We never get a name for the villain. I'm just gonna call him Mask Face because he wears a dumb mask when he kidnaps people. It's either Mask Face or Jared Leto from American Psycho, because that's the vibe he's really given off. And he's not a mystery. We're introduced to him pretty early on in the film, and this movie is going to jump between his character and our main character, Margot. He's over here doing the whole sick shit for views on YouTube. That's not YouTube, it's some fake version. Because he wants to make a name for himself. Give the people what they want. And Margot is no stranger to giving people what they want, as she was involved in a horrific train accident years ago where they did a TikTok video and the train killed her friend. Or sister, I don't actually, who cares? The big thing here is if you're gonna do a stupid dance in front of a high-speed train, make sure to jump out of the way. Don't just trip and fall. It never ends well for anyone. That's the takeaway. Because of the tragedy in Margot's past, she wants to make sure that other people don't have to relive that situation. So she works for this YouTube-esque company where she's going to approve or flag videos that are inappropriate for the internet. And that's where she's gonna get front row seats to the vicious killings of Maskface. And after seeing multiple videos that are clearly being done by this same director, she has suspicions. Are these real? Are they fake reenactments? What the hell is going on? Unfortunately, no one in her circle believes her, including her boss, who I thought at the time was Jaleel White from Family Matters, but then was thinking, maybe I'm just racist. It turns out I was racist. That's not the same actor. It was Jermaine Fowler all along. Subscribe. Since I was already on IMDb, I grazed over the cast list, and I noticed Charlie XCX was listed. Charlie X6. I don't know how you're supposed to say that, if it's an acronym for something, but what words start with X? Especially 2 words. I also don't know who the hell she was in that film. She must have had a little cameo. Maybe she was the chick that was getting banged in the stairwell. Early on, Margot sneaks away from her desk to enjoy her hoagie for lunch, going into the stairwell where she sees a couple banging a couple flights down. And there's even a sign that says, "No sex in the stairwell." That's such a common occurrence at this company, they had to put a sign out? What the fuck? She's about to eat the sub. I'll have what they're having. No, actually, I want the sandwich. I'm not gonna lie to you, fam. This movie had me in the first half, and then it completely lost me in the final third. Oh my god. The final act is an absolute shit show. But getting up to there was actually kind of interesting. I appreciated the meta commentary. I thought it worked well. I thought it was interesting that there was a possible killer out there doing these voyeuristic murder films, uploading them to not YouTube, and getting an audience for it who's completely desensitized with everything on TV and movies and online. So it does actually feed into the culture we're currently living in. But any sort of nuance or deeper dive into a possible interesting storyline goes completely out the window once that final third kicks in. This movie's rated R for vulgar language, a tiny bit of adult content. I mentioned the stairwell, I believe that's it. No nudity unless you count mannequins that are undressed as nude, in which case, bon appetit, you get a few of them here. Bon appetit. Subscribe. And there's definitely a good chunk of blood, violence, and a couple of murderous moments. Nothing that's gonna make you go, oh my stars, oh, this is so out there and extreme. But, you know, if you're into that kind of shit, you're gonna get a little bit of it. For me, even at its most extreme, Faces of Death is very tame. And I don't know if it's ironic or if it's right on the money and the movie didn't even realize it, because it's attempting to recreate these shocking moments from the past. But in modern times, watching an innocent man getting murdered by firing squad doesn't really hit anymore. It could be an American thing too, seeing as school shootings are just a common thing here, so nothing really shocks me in this day and age. It's a tidge over an hour and a half. It feels longer, which is unfortunate because I was excited for a 90-minute runtime. But again, once it gets to that final third, things get so stupid and frustrating, it's like I'm watching The Strangers 4. The last thing I want to point out is the acting. The villain is attempting, the actor is doing his best to try to make a memorable character, but it's coming off as just very silly and juvenile. He gets into these moments where he's like psyching himself up, really jacking himself up. You got this! Get in the game, brah! Get in the game, mask face! And then there's our lead protagonist, Margot. Again, for the first half, she was pleasantly fine. She has her gay roommate that brings absolutely nothing to the table. They have really no chemistry or time together. He's just kind of a useless extra. But she gets so aggravating later on. Constantly yelling, making stupid faces, loudly crying in an unappealing way. If you found what I just did for the last few seconds to be unbearably annoying, times that by 10. Hope you're hungry, because I'm ready to get into the meat of this film. There's going to be some spoilers here, so tread lightly for Faces of Death. All three of you that plan on seeing this movie. Coincidentally, Faces of Death, the nickname I gave my girlfriend in high school. She was awful. That was a long time ago, Adam. Let it go. She can't hurt you anymore. Anyway, we're going to have a section of this movie that is going to be kind of like War of the Worlds and whatnot, where we see Margot at the computer typing obnoxiously fast, doing her computer sleuthing on Reddit and other chat boards, trying to figure out if the movies are real or not. But the joke's on her, because the bad guy's been monitoring these conversations, and he actually found where she lived. He heads over to her place, kidnaps her, puts her in a cage, at which point she's able to break free, grabs the hot chick influencer that was also kidnapped, and instead of leaving the house, Margot decides, in her infinite wisdom, to look around for stuff that could tie this guy to other murders, instead of, I don't know, going to the cops and telling them you were fucking kidnapped, there's a guy locked up in a cage along with a couple dead bodies, and oh yeah, you have a popular influencer chick that's been missing for a few days that will also corroborate the story. Come on! Influencer chick even tells her, listen bitch, I can tell the cops what happened. We know where he lives. Let's go. But Margot's like, I need to find a hard drive. I need to have concrete evidence to get him locked up. So she starts wandering around the house, finds the hard drive on the computer. Instead of just pulling it out, she starts searching around on it, looking at videos. And not only that, once she sees all this evidence, she starts watching them. What the fuck? Meanwhile, influencer chick, who I have to point out, comically got kidnapped in a bathroom that looked to be the seediest bathroom ever in this public space. No one else is in there. She heads over there, starts taking photos of herself in the mirror, like snapping all these shots, doing her stupid duck lips. And the bad guy was able to sneak in there, open a shower curtain, take a phone, tape it to the shower wall, without her hearing any of this. I suppose he could have been in there ahead of time, but regardless, this whole setup was just insane, especially when, what kind of shot is this for your feed? It looks terrible in the background. The lighting's awful. It's a very gross location to do your photo shoot. I digress. He kidnaps her, and now we're caught up. So back at this beautiful house that he somehow owns, she runs away from Margot saying, I don't know what the fuck you're on about, but I'm getting out of here. Takes an item, chucks it through the glass door instead of going out a window or trying to find another unlocked area. Runs out through the yard, climbs a fence, takes off. Meanwhile, the bad guy hears her, gets his gun out, boom! Takes her out, snipes her ass. But then Margot is going to attempt the same thing later. Keep in mind, Margot, not going to be trying out for the Olympics anytime soon. Manages to climb her ass over the fence, falls onto the ground. She starts pathetically running away. Oh, God. Mask Face has his gun again. Somehow can't hit her. He could hit the skinny ass chick earlier, but Margot, a much larger target, can't be shot? He's like, curse you, Margot! Instead, the dumbest of all dumb fucking things happens. She gets a hold of the cops. They drive her back to his place. She's like, that's the house. Get him, boys. The cops go up to the door. Mask Face puts on some spectacles and gives himself a hunch. Thanks for coming, officers. You got my phone call, I see. Yep, that's the crazy bitch that was trying to break in. She's obsessed with me. Keep in mind, Margot looks like hammered shit. She's cut up, she's got blood all over her. She could easily tell the cops, look around the back of the house. The door is shattered. There's a blood trail just over the fence. In fact, you'll probably see matted down grass where this jackass dragged the body of the influencer girl across the yard. But no! The cops are like, this guy's got glasses on and he looks perfectly fine while you're all cut to shit. No, we're gonna leave it here. Thank you, sir. Sorry for interrupting you and the loud music you're playing, which is clearly there to mask the screams of influencer chick who's bleeding out on the floor right around the corner, and the cops won't even take one fucking foot inside the house. Come on! In the climax of the film, Margot heads back to the house. Han Solo, because no one believes her, of course. She confronts Mask Face with the plan being, I hope he doesn't just murder me on sight. He takes her into the slaughter room where he hopes she will help him with another beautiful film. It's at this point she pretends to be unconscious, takes out her little lipstick that doubles as a knife that she got from her friend earlier in the movie. She's used it 18 times at this point. It's really the number one weapon to use. Stabs him a bunch. He drops his gun, she sees it, and she's like, no, I'd rather use this. Starts stabbing him again. He's like, the fuck? The gun's right there. Goes for the gun. Thankfully, since she's basically a wrestler now, she's able to take him out. And on top of that, she was recording the entire thing with a secret camera under her shirt. She uploads that to the internet, and now people can finally see the unmasking of this pile of shit. And the only way I can truly describe this woman in this scene is as a strong female lead. And for a meta remake of a 1978 cult classic, quite frankly, it's about time. And there you have it, folks. Faces of Death. It was pretty bad. It's watchable, but then you don't want to watch it after about an hour. It just really dropped the ball late in the game. There are moments that are interesting. I do find the killer to be very comical, though. He's not scary at all. There's not really any sort of anticipation throughout the film. There's nothing creepy or scary. It's all just kind of there and performative and all stuff that you've seen or don't care to see again. But the big question today is this. Does it surpass Chris Pratt's masterpiece, Mercy? Does it overcome Ice Cube's powerful performance in War of the Worlds? To that I say, it does. It is better than those other two turds. Number 15. Here's an oddity for you. There's a new film in theaters called Hokum right now. The early buzz was very positive, so I went in kind of excited. And as the movie started to unspool, I thought to myself, wow, so I just don't agree with anything people have been praising this film about. Because I found Hokum to be kind of a joke-um. Let's talk about the film in a spoiler-free review. A writer heads out to a remote hotel in Ireland so that he can scatter the ashes of his dead parents. But after spending just a night in the hotel, he's gonna find out this place is not as accommodating as he once thought. And I don't even think he had the continental breakfast. It's included with the room, dude. Think! No. Our Ben Wyatt is gonna find out this is no Parks and Recreation. This is more of a 1408 scenario. You know that old chestnut with John Cusack where he's trapped in a room and a bunch of shit happens? This is kind of that, but worse. The first half of the movie kind of plays out like a mystery whodunit thriller, but then the second half turns into your tried and true formula of a guy stuck in a room and creepy shit happens. And that's really the crux of it, right? How creepy is the shit that happens? Is it worth a watch? No, I don't think so. There is some creepy stuff for about, I will give it a good 15 minutes there, where I was kind of like, oh, this is a little unnerving, all right. We got past the cheap jump scare phase that the first half had constantly, and now we're finally in more disturbing territory. The problem, and it is a huge problem this movie has going for it, is that the script can't be bothered to give you any insight to what's really going on. Sure, there's some breadcrumbs here and there, like you're playing a video game and you walk by some characters having a conversation, which conveniently filters the protagonist some much needed information about what to do in a scenario that's definitely gonna come up later. But as far as the mystery is concerned, it's too mysterious. I didn't have enough information to go on, so most of the time I'm sitting there going, why? Why is this happening? Who are these people? As with a good chunk of horror films, there's obviously going to be some stupid choices made. The ones in here, just fantastic. Adam Scott's character is not only an unlikable prick who you don't want to be around, he's also really impressive at making the worst choices humanly possible. Like, a big chunk of this movie is going to take place in a couple of rooms in this hotel, featuring a dumbwaiter. And this dumb ass is really hell-bent on using this thing constantly. And why? I don't know. Because the dumbwaiter leads to hell. It goes to this creepy underground area that no good could come from. So when he's faced with a choice of, should I take this, or should I make a run for the door, or break a window, which he never tries to do once, he's gonna opt for the dumbwaiter every single time. There's also a secondary story going on. Literally a story, as this writer is really trying to come up with an ending for his popular book franchise. So we have that going on twice in the movie, featuring a guy and a kid roaming the desert looking for a treasure. How does this tie into the main narrative? Unclear! I'm sure symbolically it does. I'm sure that there's a representation of the writer inside of the story and his relationship with his father or his mother, or I didn't care. If you want to leave some things vague, if you want to have an allegory or a metaphor or some deeper meaning, it helps to at least have a surface level understanding of where this story's going, and then it encourages the audience to dig in further. I saw this film with a buddy though. We went into the parking lot afterwards, we were chatting about it for a little bit, and we both kind of stopped. We're like, who fucking cares? Why are we trying to dissect this? It didn't do a good enough job of setting things up and knocking them down appropriately. Why do I have to put in all the work to try to make it come together? If you like a movie with jump scares, this one attempts them quite a bit, especially again in that first half. They almost never hit at all. It doesn't help that the jump scare always comes from basically the same character over and over again. So by the third or fourth attempt, I'm like, yep, there's that bitch again. Okay, great. What else do you have? And then there's the lighting of the film. Hope you like watching things in the dark, because that's a good chunk of this movie. Very dimly lit. I understand they're trying to get a creepy atmosphere of who's in the shadows, what's going on. But again, it's always played out in such a comically stupid way. Here's an example. There's an elevator that leads up to this forbidden haunted room, and it has one of those door cages in front of it that you pull down. Well, one of the staff hears some loud whispering. That seems like an oxymoron, but whatever, I'm a moron. Wipe out. And so, how does he investigate this? Like anyone would, of course. He pulls out a lighter that can illuminate maybe an inch in front of your face, and then he sticks his hand through the metal cage of the door into the elevator shaft, lights it up, and he's like, huh? I can't see anything. No shit, Sherlock. Go get a fucking flashlight. If someone's in the elevator going, they're stuck there. And they're probably a demon or something if you're hearing noises like that. Go down the stairs, grab a flashlight, go up the stairs. The whole thing's gonna cost you 20 seconds. Turn it on, and then you can see a little bit clearer than sticking your hand in there. Come on! That, to me, is the laziest way to build up a scare. Having to have stupid people do stupid things. And you can have the scare with the flashlight. He shines that thing around. You're still getting that anticipation. You're still getting that nerve-wracking moment where you know that light is gonna move, and then chilling to the bone. Most of this film is going to be the Adam Scott show. He's kind of a one-man band here. There are some other characters that come and go, but most of the time you're with this guy. Again, he's very unlikable, but I like Adam Scott. He's a good actor. I've always enjoyed his work, especially in Severance and the aforementioned Parks and Rec. This ain't that, though. Hokum is an R-rated 2-hour 47 tedious strain to watch. It's a tedious strain because it's too long and you're straining your eyes to see what's going on half the time. There are definitely things I'd like to go into, but I'm refraining myself from talking about them. If you subscribe, I hope to do a spoiler recap of this movie if this video does well enough. I typically like to see those numbers high, and then I'll go in and talk full details about the movie to the best of my ability. But for first impressions, this just doesn't check any of the boxes I really look for in a film. I found the story to at first be intriguing and then fall completely on its face. I found the scares to be contained within about a 10-minute window of the movie, and everything after that was kind of laughably silly. The pacing is way too slow, and it's not really building to anything amazing. The music, the score, I think there was something decent there. I truly don't remember it, so obviously it didn't leave a lasting impression. And unfortunately, this is one of those movies that attempts to piggyback off of a fable, but just fumbles it. And I've seen it done so much more interesting in other movies. A great example would be The Witch. Not that there's a ton of similarities to these two films, but I thought The Witch's tone, the atmosphere, the creepiness of it all worked very well compared to what this is doing. Or here's maybe a more appropriate comparison, The Shining. Another movie with an unlikable protagonist who's held up in a hotel and starts to lose his mind. I love The Shining, didn't care about Hokum. Number 14. Here's a true story. I went out and saw The Mummy tonight, came home, and my wife said, well, how was it? How was The Mummy? And I just gave her one of these. In which she replied, wait, what? Brendan Fraser wasn't good in it? And then I responded, Brendan Fraser wasn't in this movie. Her response back was, I thought the whole cast was returning. I'm confused. In which I finally shut her down by saying, Bish, this is an entirely new mummy thing that really isn't a mummy thing at all. So I guess the campaign Blumhouse has been on for the last couple weeks of spamming out Brendan Fraser isn't in this movie fell on deaf ears. And the ones that did hear those calls already knew he wasn't going to be in this because we're film buffs. We know movies like the back of our cock, as the expression goes. We knew this was a Lee Cronin film. The guy that gave us that high champagne art that was the Evil Dead Rise from a couple years back that I actually freaking love. So I went into this movie ready for his film to wash over my bodice, taking in the gross out moments, being enthralled by the captivating characters, ready to leave that movie theater and say, Brendan Fraser, fuck that guy. I'm in on Lee Cronin's film now. But after sitting in that theater for 2 hours and 13 minutes, not counting the 30 minutes of credits from AMC, thanks fuckers, I am unhappy to report that this movie is a mess. First things first, I'm the realest. Drop this and let the whole world feel this. Brendan Fraser is not in this movie. I don't know if that was clear to you yet, but no, this is not a Brendan Fraser vehicle. This is its own thing. And really, there's not a mummy in this movie either, if I'm going to be perfectly frank with you. You can be imperfectly Carl. Listen, Carl, here's the deal. The movie for the first 30 minutes was incredibly well done. The whole movie's shot very well. It's a beautiful looking, gross film. And as a proud father myself, I could relate to the cries of this man who lost his daughter in a mysterious way, only to have her come back into their life 8 years later. But she's not quite that same butterfly he saw last time. No. This butterfly projectile vomits black ooze all over their floors. Her nails and teeth fall out like it's their jobs. She can't talk. She chatters her teeth a lot in a really obnoxious way. She looks like shit. Probably should have led with that one. She looks incredibly rough. And again, as a father, if my child showed back up 8 years later, not aging a day, but looking like hammered crap, I would probably go, you know what? Something's amiss here. I'm not a supernatural dude, but you might as well call me Fox Mulder right now because I smell an X-File. I could have said the name of one of the characters from Supernatural, I suppose, but well, let's move on. This is a bummer for me because I was really looking forward to this. And again, visually, it's a gorgeous looking flick. The production across the board is commendable. Most of it looks very real. So when you're seeing flesh getting tore off the bone or a scorpion crawl into someone's throat, you kind of taste it yourself. I gotta tell you, it doesn't taste great. And I also want to give a shout out to little Natalie Grace, who plays Katie, the lead protagonist / antagonist mummy girl. She is absolutely perfect here. Her performance is terrific. No notes from you, Katie. You did a great job playing a disgusting little child. Well done. As for the rest of the fam, they're fine. Charlie, the father, he's easily the most sympathetic, likable one of the group, trying to actually figure out what's going on. The mother couldn't stand her, wanted her dead day one. She's just the worst type of character in a movie that's completely blinded by having her kid back, so everything else is just shut out of her mind. Like the fact that her little girl is headbutting her grandma or constantly attacking family members. And the delusion gets so extremely absurd. I knew I was in for a rough time as soon as that little girl showed back up into the picture. And all of the family members are like this close to her face at all times. Hey, sweetie, it's good to have you back. Please don't eat my face off. There comes a point where it's just exhausting to watch these stupid people continue to live. And then you just want them to die. I mentioned earlier I really enjoyed his entry into the Evil Dead world. I like all those Evil Dead movies. They're all a lot of fun. And this Mummy movie feels like it's closer to that than it is of the thing it's supposed to be. So when we get into the third act and it becomes this laughable Looney Tunes festival that makes no sense at all, I just kept thinking he clearly wanted to do another Evil Dead, but maybe someone said no? Why? Why this? And the reason The Mummy doesn't work like Evil Dead did is because it is so serious to begin with. It does pull at the heartstrings early on. I felt some stuff in that first third. I was like, this is sad. This is powerful. I'm like excited to see where this goes and how this shapes the narrative later. But then the train goes completely off the rails and it just turns into slop. Crazy shit just happens, and nobody reacts how rational people would. I really want to dive into some specifics, but I'm gonna hold off until that spoiler video. Let's just say I sympathized with the son who is constantly banging his head against the bedpost, because that's exactly what I wanted to do. Outside of this family that we're gonna spend a majority of the time with, there is a secondary character. It's a detective lady. She operates out of Cairo, where this whole movie takes place. It's all in Egypt, which I guess is another nod to The Mummy, but outside of like the setting, it's not really utilized. There's no pyramids, there's no scarabs, there's nothing that makes The Mummy at all. And I can look past all that. I gladly would have looked past all that if this was a satisfying film to sit through. Unfortunately, it's not. So then all those other elements piss me off even more. Anyway, this actress looked a lot like Shailene Woodley. It kind of bothered me. And the mom in the film kind of looked like Tatiana Maslany. So this is one of those films where the actors are doppelgangers of other actors. It's like I was watching one of those shitty Hallmark Christmas movies where everyone looks just slightly off from a different person. Wait, you're not Chris Pratt. You're Chris Pratt. Now, just because this bothered me doesn't mean it won't work for you. I give you the tools to make you decide for yourself. It is rated R for violence, for swearing. There's no nudity. There's a lot of gore. There's a lot of grotesque moments in this, so maybe not the best date night film. Not a lot of kills. If you're looking for those, you're looking in the wrong place. There's like one or two. They're pretty cool, but there's not a lot there. And if you're completely desensitized from horror movies having rational characters or plot points, you don't care about any of that, you just want to see some violence take place and some gross out moments, a couple scares here and there. Well, there's no scares, actually. This movie is scareless. There's not a lot of tension. There's good atmosphere, but there's nothing there to really scare you. But again, over 2 hours, it is a lengthy film, and you definitely feel it in that last act, unless, of course, you're on board with all the shenanigans. For me, though, I was just so frustrated and ready for it to be over. And I think I'm ready for this review to be over. Bottom line is, there was a cool idea here, and I think there are elements that work really well. There is some fascinating lore behind this mummy. It doesn't go too deep, but it's at least something. There is the detective-ish angle a little bit later on. I think they could have done more with that, and that maybe would have helped things. And also just make the family not dumber than shit. It just loses plausibility, and there are multiple scenes where the editing completely robs you of what should come next, and you're left having to just fill in the blanks. Like something really insane will take place with a kid or something, and then boom, it's the next day, and you're left to think like, what? How did this end? How did we get past this? This film uses that cheat code so many times. The hard cut to black or the hard cut to the next day. And I'm gonna hard cut this review. All right, there you have it. My thoughts on The Mummy. Sad to say, this was my most hyped horror film of the year, and it really disappointed me. Number 13. From the director that used to make good movies, Renny Harlin, comes his newest foray into terrible. It's called Deep Water, not to be confused with Deep Water, that came out just a few years ago starring Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas. Truthfully, this one is much better than that, mainly because it features sharks, and for no other reason at all. Now, you might go to a film like this hoping for some chilling scares like you got with the classic Jaws, or maybe some dumb popcorn fun like you get with Deep Blue Sea. But what Deep Shit offers is something far worse. Painful mediocrity. I'm a simple man, I like simple things. Little Lake Placid goes a long way for me, a little Anaconda. I like man versus nature sort of films. I'm easy like that. And my son eats them up too, so we went out to the movies to check this one out. And what we were given was an R-rated, hour 50-minute film that featured some pretty pathetic shark action and a badass plane scene. Like, the plane scene, I would almost say, is worth watching this film if YouTube didn't exist. But let me run through briefly the pros and cons. Number one, the pros. I mentioned the plane crash. That is the highlight of this film. Nothing to do with sharks at all, unfortunately. And that's what the premise revolves around. We have a passenger flight of 250 odd people, and we have our pilots played by Two-Face himself, Aaron Eckhart, and Sir Ben Kingsley. The script gives the most bullshit backstory for Aaron Eckhart. He's got a wife and a kid that he misses. That's pretty much it. I actually didn't mind that they didn't waste too much time building these characters up, but then, inexplicably, they do with everyone else. There are so many passengers on this plane that we spend little bits of time building for no reason at all. Half of the storylines don't go anywhere. My favorite is a dude that has a laptop. I don't know anyone's names. I don't care to look them up. They're so one-dimensional and stupid, it doesn't matter. But he's sitting next to an old curmudgeonly lady, and she's giving him a hard time. At one point early in the film, she rates him a 5 out of 10, pointing out that he doesn't have the qualities it takes to pick up someone like the beautiful flight attendant. And she's going to keep reminding him that he's a 5 out of 10 throughout the movie. I foolishly assumed, because this is usually how scripts go, when you build up a character, you usually would take that to a rightful conclusion. So if this guy's a 5 out of 10 and the audience is hearing this several times, you would think by the end of the movie, he would have some sort of a redemption arc, and she looks at him and says, "You're a 10 out of 10, or something, to that effect, a little fun callback. Nah, no. No, what happens with that character actually is question mark, because I don't remember what happened to him. And that's both a testament to how unremarkable anyone is in this movie, and to the fact that there's just too many characters to keep track of. When the movie was over, I went to the couple right in front of my son and I said, "You guys just got out of the stupid shark movie, right?" The guy said yes, and so then I posed the question because I kind of wanted to know for the review. Yeah, what happened to the computer dude that was a 5 out of 10? He turned to me and he's like, I think he died? I don't actually remember. And I responded, yeah, neither do I. This entire film, though, feels like it should have come out in the early 2000s. Every Roland Emmerich playbook, he didn't direct this, but it feels like he kind of did, is on display with far less competency. Listen, some of his stuff works for me. I'm a big fan of Independence Day. I'm a sucker for his stuff like Day After Tomorrow. Even 2012 is dumb fun. But that's mainly because Roland Emmerich is all about the disaster porn. He knows how to make things look pretty damn badass. And even his kind of simpleton characters usually do have arcs that intertwine with each other and they resolve at the end. Not the case with Deep Water. I really hope this video performs well, because I would love to go into spoiler recap territory with this thing. There are so many characters that just feel incomplete. Like the storylines were somewhat thought out, but then they went a different direction. Because we're going to be following a couple of kids who get separated from their parents. We're going to be following the super cliche douchebag guy who's just an asshole from beginning to end. We have the stoic first officer, or whatever his title is, played by Aaron Eckhart. No idea what his name is. There's that old bag I talked about earlier who also misses her kid or some crap. There's the traveling soccer team, which has a bully American guy. The coach who keeps him in check, the couple that he's picking on. There's too many characters. Everything I have brought up to this point is useless if the sharks work. If the sharks are cool, if the kills are vicious, if the tension mounts, then I'm in. Yeah, not the case here. There are maybe 2 pretty cool shark attack scenes. Everything else is throwaway. They even have the audacity to rip off Deep Blue Sea with a couple great whites taking on the middle one. But in Deep Blue Sea, that's actually explained in the plot. In this movie, it just happens at one point, and everything is so quick. The shark attacks come out of nowhere and they're done before you even have a chance to really digest it. We barely see fins approaching characters. We barely see the sharks underwater even. Most of it's done on the surface. And it's such a simple, fun premise. You have a plane that's crashed into the ocean. The 30 or so survivors left are in different parts of the plane waiting for help. Not helping anything is the film looks incredibly fake. The whole film looks to have been shot in front of a green screen. The color grading, everything in this just has this super artificial look to it. It reeks of a straight to Netflix film that somehow got a theatrical release. Thrash, aka Trash, was another recent shark movie that was a Netflix streamer that looks twice as good as this big movie release does. God, I really wanted another fun shark movie. Unfortunately, it ends up being one of those movies you can kind of sort of have a fun time watching if you're just laughing at how ridiculous it is. But even then, the situations never get cartoonish enough where the movie feels like it's having fun alongside of you. Instead, it takes things way too serious and spends far too much time with all these cookie cutter characters that you want the sharks to eat. As far as the special effects go, yikes. I mentioned how it looks visually bad, but then the sharks themselves never look real. There was not a single moment in this movie where I saw one of those fucking things. I'm like, oh my God, that's a real shark. No! It is mind-boggling that a janky-ass robot shark from the 70s still somehow looks more convincing than the dreck they're putting out these days. Granted, it is physically there, which makes a big difference. The characters and the audience have something real to react to. Unfortunately, with Deep Shit, there's nothing there. I just go rewatch Deep Blue Sea, or The Shallows even. I really enjoyed that one as well. Okay, there you have it, my thoughts on the shark movie of the week. Since that's all they're doing now, I saw they just greenlit Under Paris 2. Another Netflix shark movie, baby! Number 12. Scream 7 is here. Everybody's super pumped about it. There's no controversy behind the scenes. No one is protesting this movie for any sort of reason at all. Everybody's super pumped to see where this franchise goes next. Even Neve Campbell, who sat the last movie out. Now, some of you may not know this, but Neve Campbell was not in the last Scream film because the script just wasn't up to par. But this time around, she read it over and she said, yep, this is the one for me. And it's definitely not because they're giving me $6 million and I didn't do the last one because they didn't offer enough. No, it's entirely for the art of cinema. As fun as it is to gossip about the behind-the-scenes drama, how they fired Melissa Barrera from the film, how Jenna Ortega walked in protest, or I'm sorry, she had scheduling conflicts, and how the director was off the project. It's more interesting to me to just talk about the film and see how it worked out. Well, I saw Scream 7 last night, went in with an open heart, open mind, open legs, and I came out on the other side a changed man. But is it for the better or for the worse? Well, I'm going to tell you about it in a spoiler-free review right now. Neve Campbell is back, baby! And she brought with her a performance for the ages. I was riveted by her performance in Scream 7, and I thought to myself, well, there's no going up from here. This is peak, fam. No, in actuality, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to throw out a truth bomb, and some people are going to be pissed. They're going to shut off the video in protest, and they're going to say, how dare you, sir? I have never, ever in my life thought Sydney was a great character. I never thought, yep, this is the final girl that I need to see 7 times, 8 times, 10 times over. No, in actuality, I find her to be just bland and a dry stick in the mud that brings almost nothing to the table. And all of those issues I have with her are magnified in the 7th installment, where she says off camera, this is a great script, she came back at the right time, but from what I'm seeing is a jumbled mess that seems incredibly uninspired, and her performance feels like it's so lacking. Just going through the motions at this point. She's not the only returning character. We have Courtney Cox back in the mix. Love my Cox. I love seeing Cox. I love watching Cox. Anytime I can have Cox in front of me, I'm a happy panda. Subscribe. Unlike Mrs. Sydney, I actually really enjoy Gale Weathers. I think she's a fun character. She has weathered these films very well. Her last name is Weathers. It's a pun. It's highbrow stuff here on Adam Does Movies. Certified critic. As fun as her character can be, she's not the most pleasant to look at these days, thanks to a massive amount of plastic surgery gone wrong, then maybe reversed, then apparently reversed, because she's getting kind of scary to look at on camera. And I'm not one to physically shame someone, but Jesus Christ. At this point, you could paint her face white, and nothing else would have to change, and she would look just like Ghostface. Her shape is just so bizarre and elongated. Like Heath Ledger's Joker grabbed a knife and put a smile on that face and just never stopped ear to ear. Chilling to the bone. But this is not the Gale Weathers story. This is the Sidney Prescott Evans story. That's right, the last name got a new appendage because she's a married woman with checks notes, 3 kids. Had to check fictitiously on my notes because we're only going to be seeing 1 in the film. This is one of those comical scripts where they don't know what to do with the other kids, so they just toss them at the grandparents right when the movie fires out and you see her. Oh, hey, children and grandparents that we're never going to address again in the movie. As bland as I often find Sidney, the only character that comes close to rivaling her in this department is naturally her daughter, Tatum. They really want you to remember the name Tatum. They're gonna say it so fucking much, your head will explode. Tatum! Look out, Tatum! Is that Tatum on the phone? Tatum! It was giving me flashbacks of Spike's name being yelled out in 28 years later. Spike, where's Spike at? There's a spike in the road! This young woman, Channing Tatum, she was named after Sidney's best friend Tatum, played by a large-chested Rose McGowan in the first film. I'll never forget. Yeah, I guess they were just the best of friends, as Sidney tells us about 45 times in this film. Hey, I don't know if you know this, I was best friends with Tatum. That's why I named you Tatum. Not because she was viciously murdered by a garage door. No, it's because I think you're great, and I love Tatum. Not because I want you to die by a garage door as well. I kind of wanted Tatum to die by a garage door, I'm not going to lie to you, but we're spoiler free here. This movie, like a lot of modern day soft reboot sort of things, kicking off a new franchise of sorts, is going to focus on that parent-child relationship. And just like every movie I've seen with this shtick, they're going to hate each other, kinda. I have pleaded to the gods for decades now to just make a fucking movie where the teenage kid is not a complete brat, where they get along with the parents. It worked for Gilmore Girls. You can make it happen. But no, not here. We have a Sidney Jr. who's trash. Oh, her name is Tatum, in case you didn't know. It's Tatum. Our little Tate McRae cannot go a scene without giving her mom some shit. Now, to be fair, it's not entirely the kid's fault. Neve Campbell's Sidney does not want to unearth the trauma in her life. In fact, she never talks about it. She changes the subject and just says, listen, bitch, if you want to find out about me, there's a whole series of stab movies. There's probably a graphic novel or 2. There's a book I wrote. Gale Weathers will tell you anything you want to know. It's just a phone call away. Why you asking me? Which makes it more perplexing that Sidney won't open up to her daughter, seeing as all of that stuff is at her fingertips. Wouldn't it be good to come from the mom's mouth? I mentioned she has a new last name. She's married to Joel McHale's cop character. I love Joel McHale. He's hilarious in Community. I cannot take him serious in anything ever. So watching him here try to be this stoic father cop type, not working at all. But it's always nice to see regardless. There is the new hot teenage group that's going to be coming and going. You're not sure who to trust. You're not sure who's good and bad. That stuff's all fine and dandy. We always have a new group of kids every, a couple films when we try to reboot this shit. But then we also have Chad and Mindy, fan favorites. They're back. Everybody loves Chad and Mindy. I mean, I don't care about these two. They're fine. They're odd in this movie. They're used entirely as comic relief characters. They're far zanier in this one than they were in the past movies. It's a little off-putting, honestly, how much they're just like, oh, well, that just happened. Wait, if you're over here, then that means, uh-oh. I'm, of course, being dramatic, but I'm also not entirely off. The inclusion of these characters is entirely fan service. They bring nothing to the story at all. And in fact, not only them, but several other people come and go, disappearing like Houdini without a second thought. And these are at critical times where they could be of use. There's a scene so fucking funny later on where Sidney takes off on foot She was just with her friend Gail, who has access to a car, and she's like, did Sydney just go out the door? Classic Sydney. She's incorrigible. And then nothing happens from there. This is a very serious situation. There's dire consequences afoot. And Gail never gets in the car and picks her friend's ass up. Absolutely ridiculous. And the reason for it is because the story really wants to focus on the Sydney-daughter relationship. Tatum, her name is Tatum if you forgot, and how that's gonna play out over the course of this movie. And I gotta tell you, it doesn't play out great. It's just so bare bones basic. Say what you will about the modern Halloween trilogy. I happen to enjoy them. I know they're very rough as these films play out, but the first one specifically I really enjoyed. And it's because Jamie Lee Curtis is a badass in the film. Laurie Strode has survived all of these years, but that trauma has stayed with her. So what does she do? She embraces the crazy. She builds a kill box in the middle of the woods where she is gonna patiently wait for that fucker to come back all these years later. Scream 7 opts to do the opposite of that, make the lead star this almost timid, fragile character. Sure, they give her a gun, and once in a while she attempts to shoot things and kind of come off as a badass, but it just doesn't work because Neve Campbell is just your girl next door still. She doesn't have that, like grit you look for. As far as the story is concerned, there's not really a whole lot to tell. The events of New York are brought up a few times here and there. The whole movie's gonna focus, though, on this buttfuck little coffee shop town where Sydney has tried to start over and make a real life for herself. They have a beautiful large house that for some reason is half under construction. No one's ever working on this thing. I don't know what the hell's happening with that place, but dear God, I've never seen so many tarps put up in a construction zone in my life. And with the setting established, really, it's just a back and forth between the older guard and these new kids, figuring out who's responsible for the murders. Wash, rinse, repeat. You have seen all of this 6 times, done far more interesting. As far as entertainment factor goes, it was at least a watchable, somewhat entertaining time when you're not laughing at the film, not with it, because holy shit, are there some really stupid moments in this one. There are some pretty awesome kills, a little bit of gore here and there goes a long way, and some of them do get pretty gory, so that was very much appreciated. As far as the self-referential humor goes that these movies have always been known for, the meta commentary, it goes very hard this time. I think it goes way too hard. Where these characters are basically looking right at the audience and going, can you believe what's happening this time? I have plenty of examples I really want to get into as far as the dumb goes, but I am going to hold my tongue. I'm going to leave those for a spoiler video that I will do separately. You're going to want to subscribe to hear that, though. Rest assured, there's some fun stuff to be had. Now, we got to talk about the audience because I love a good audience, and oh boy, it never ceases to amaze me when it comes to horror films more than any other genre, how absolutely obnoxious people can be. I don't know where the entitlement comes from, but I so badly wanted to bust out my own knife at one point and take out a guy a couple rows behind me, slicing the throat and watching the blood start to pool out. This asshole could not help himself but make loud comments every 5 minutes. Oh, don't go in there. Yeah. Oh, she's dead. Don't answer the phone. I guess here's the bottom line. If you really love all the Scream movies, if you are so craving more Neve Campbell, you have her. You have a very basic film. It harkens back, I suppose, to those early ones, but I don't believe it has the style. I don't think it has the class. The jokes often feel forced. The commentary seems almost a little bit spiteful at times. There is one comment I have to bring up where I think Neve apologizes basically to the audience and to Paramount Studios saying, I should have been in New York. Wink, wink, wink. I shouldn't have held out for more money, in other words. That's just how it felt to me. And I would have to disagree with her. I didn't need to see her in New York. I don't need to see this character anymore. I do think there's plenty of life in it without some of these old dogs anymore. We can move on. We kind of did move on. We did the torch pass, but then they torched it, so now they have to go back to the well. I disagree. I don't think you have to go back to the well. Ghostface is a cool character. They have a great concept. And to this movie's somewhat credit, they do manage to play off the modern era, but everything in this movie feels rushed, half-baked. There was some odd editing choices where characters are about to say something and then it hard cuts. These are things I notice, folks. That's why they pay me the big bucks. And that's why I just do not think Scream 7 is very good. I didn't hate it. I certainly didn't respect it. If you love Scream, though, all the way 1 through 6, why? 6 was kind of bad. And yet, I still think I would rather watch 6 than this one, which tells you a lot. All right, that's all I got. Scream 7, not great, incredibly lame, and a little bit insulting at times. Number 11. It's been a day, so naturally Netflix has dropped like 10 more new movies for us to digest. The newest product in the Netflix entry of films I'm calling movies that are kind of like other movies but pretending to be new is a survival thriller starring Charlize Theron titled Deliverance. No. A River Wild. No? Apex. Yeah, that's more generic. That's right. Strap in and strap on as our heroine tries to escape the clutches of an evil Taron Egerton up in the wild mountains. Okay, so it sounds a little generic, a little familiar. That doesn't mean it can't be great in its own right. I mean, like, I have a dick to stand on. I'm a middle-aged white dude on YouTube with a collection of nerdy shit behind me. You might as well stamp generic on my forehead. It's big enough to. Smoking hot 50-year-old Charlize Theron reminds me that age is only a number when you're Charlize Theron and no one else. She plays an adrenaline junkie named Sasha, and her newest mission is to go up into the wilderness and find some cruising for a bruising so she can say goodbye to her lover, Eric Bana. Yeah, for you Eric Bana fans out there, unfortunately, he's not going to make it to the title card of this film, as this whole picture revolves around Sasha finally saying goodbye. It's been a long day without you, my friend. Much like the movie I just covered before this, Mother Mary, oh, kill me, that was bad. This too is gonna basically be a two-person show. There's a couple throwaway characters that show up early on, but really this is a Taron Egerton, Charlize Theron vehicle. And I gotta tell you, Eggsy's pissed. He wants to kill this woman for sport, something fierce. And that's where this movie really turns into Deliverance / River Wild, as we're gonna see Sasha kayaking down the rapids, avoiding jagged rocks and a crossbow by our villain of the film. We're gonna see her have to scale a mountain just like they do at the end of Deliverance. The only thing missing here is really anything that makes a movie memorable. Just like War Machine, it's competent enough. It gets the job done, but it leaves you wondering, like, what did I just watch? There's not a single memorable quote in the film. The music leaves zero impression. The main character has zero personality or real characteristics at all. She's supposed to be a thrill seeker, but she's not even an exciting thrill seeker. She just kind of do, squeedly-dee, tweedly-da. I'm gonna jump in the water here. This is fun. I'm on an adventure. Taron Egerton's the only real character in this movie with a personality, and even he is not anything special or memorable. He just does a lot of caca noises. That's his whole thing. He just does bird sounds all the time to freak out the lead. A tweedle-leedle-dee, a tweedle-dee-dee, tweedle, I'm gonna kill you, bitch! Sorry, wow, I blacked out. Arrested Development fans? Anyone? Now, again, just like with War Machine, this is a perfectly serviceable R-rated 90-minute in and out sort of an affair. It has enough going for it to keep you interested. No need to fast forward, no need to sit on your phone the whole picture. There are some decent moments to be had. I really liked when she falls down the side of the hill. It looks pretty cool. She flies into the water below. Arrows flying by her. Taron Egerton, far too pretty of a man to play this role. He's not pulling it off in the slightest. The whole time I'm just thinking, God, there's a lot of men more attractive than me out there. Don't watch this, honey. Don't watch this, Lindsay. There's nothing here for you. And there are actually a few thrills in the film. A few moments where I was a little bit scared for the lead. Like, oh no, how's she gonna get out of this? How's she gonna unclasp that canoe over there? The dude's just skinny dipping across the way. He can get there quick, he's fast! But because it is so boilerplate, because it, and this is a generic thing to say as well, because again, this is a generic channel, of course. You could use the lazy attack that this feels like it was generated by AI. That's how predictable the script is. I was saying dialogue before the characters were. I was predicting everything that was going to happen before it happened. But I don't think Netflix cares. I think they believe, hey, a lot of people haven't seen A River Wild or Deliverance or the plethora of films that are kind of the same as this one. So this maybe looks original to them. And that's fine. Then it's doing enough to stand out. It's doing enough to grab people's attention for 24 hours, and that's all we need them for because we got 5 more movies by Adam Sandler coming out. But this is not a memorable film. This is a good old-fashioned Sunday afternoon, throw on and forget about it in a week sort of a deal. I mentioned it's rated R. I think there was maybe some swearing in there. I don't know. I'm so completely desensitized by vulgar dialogue. I know there was a little bit of brutality. There's some blood, a couple violent, grossish moments, a tiny tidge amount of nudity. It's not from Charlize, unfortunately. I mentioned Egerton's kind of skinny dipping at one point in the movie. There's also a body shown later there's a little bit of a nip slip, but nothing in the film that's going to make you go, yeah, this was worth watching for that. No, overall, this is a safe, perfectly mediocre execution for dad to watch on the weekend. Again, music, I don't know. There was probably music in the film. Laughs, none. This movie is serious from front to back. No memorable dialogue in the slightest. Charlize looks great. Taryn is trying to be a threatening character. And again, there are a few little slivers of moments where I was like, okay, this was kind of a cool scene. Visually, again, it looked like War Machine to me. There is some beautiful outdoor shots. It's very crisp and 4K looking on the visuals. Some of the water looks a little fake. The mountain climbing, for the most part, was realistic enough. I was never taken out by anything. So overall, for a Netflix movie, this is about as good as it gets. For a movie going to theaters, I would say don't waste your time. But since you have access to it on streaming, probably you're paying for the app or getting it somehow illegally, you could do worse. You could do worse. And that's high praise for Netflix. Okay, that's all I got. Let me know if you watched Apex. Number 10. We finally got a sequel to that Ready or Not movie that came out like 50 years ago. This one's called Ready or Not, Here I Come. Well, I saw the movie last night. I have a lot of thoughts, and the question I really want to answer today is, did you leave the movie after watching Ready or Not and say, here I come? Or should this movie be retitled Ready or Not, Here I Dumb? This is a highbrow channel. Subscribe. Not Margot Robbie returns as Grace, the blushing bride from the first film who found herself in kind of a bad in-law situation, meaning they were all trying to kill her. And the sequel wastes no time taking things up a notch. As this film fires up directly after the events of the first, she's still sitting outside that front stoop, fire ablaze behind her. But why now? A sequel to Ready or Not 2 after all these years? What creative spin does the writer have for us this time? Nothing. A sister, I guess? Yeah, it turns out Grace had an estranged sister named Faith that she hasn't talked to for 7 years. You would think that marrying into an incredibly influential family that just so happens to be part of a satanic cult would do their due diligence and maybe get a background check on a person getting married into the family. But no, I guess they opted not to, so they had no idea Grace had a sister named Faith. And this new sibling is played by Catherine Newton. Oh. Listen, here's the deal. There are certain actors out there that just rub me the wrong way. One such actor is Catherine Newton. Everybody has theirs. Mine is Catherine. I do not care for her as an actress. She always has a shit-eating grin on her face. She never seems to be taking anything seriously. And I really tried to look past that and take her at face value this time around. What is this character gonna offer? How is she different than, say, her Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantum Shitty counterpart? Or her role in Abigail. She's still the same actress that gives us nothing and takes from us everything! And that's gonna be a big problem for some audience members like myself, because Ready or Not 2 is going to have this sibling rivalry take place throughout the film. Grace and Faith do not care for each other. In fact, they despise each other. So getting paired up in a situation where they have to flee for their lives because there's a bunch of satanic cultists chasing after you, hoping to murder and take their spot at the top of the throne, not the best way they probably want to spend their weekends. And for an audience, I don't believe it's the best way to spend a couple hours watching a film, because when there's not an action scene where some inept rich person is trying to kill them but failing, we have these two barking at each other nonstop, arguing constantly, dredging up bad history. And it just does not work with the setting. They are on the run. People are going after them with guns, knives, katanas. And so the middle of running away sometimes, they'll pump the brakes and they'll just hash shit out. What? If you loved Ready or Not because of the crazy kills, kind of the fun situations, people just randomly blowing up into blood, you have a lot of that again. I don't think it's near as creative. I actually don't think it's near as funny. And I was really disappointed by these new characters they brought on, especially Sarah Michelle Gellar, who I expected to have this kind of mean girl energy, boss bitch personality. Not really. She's incredibly underutilized. Elijah Wood is easily the standout new character, and because it's Elijah Wood, he's always fantastic. He's playing the evil lawyer slash overseer of the events going down. Because the plot this time around is just as simple and straightforward as the last, albeit with a lot of convoluted rules that don't even make sense, but for the most part, it's centrally focused on killing Grace once again. She survived the last outing, but she killed off the entire family. The bloodline is gone, meaning a powerful ring to rule them all is up for grabs. So the 4 other families still alive have to compete for the ring, which means whoever kills the bride gets the prize. What does Faith have to do with any of this? Unclear. She just appears to be along for the ride. She has nothing to do with the plot. They could kill her at any point, but they opt not to because reasons. They kind of use excuses that they can use her as leverage once in a while, but overall, it's just very half-assed way for there to be conflict between these two siblings. The other thing I'll point out is plot armor is insane in this one, to the point of absurdity. I forgave it mostly in the first one because they had so much fun with the kills and the situations, but this time around, we have Sarah Michelle Gellar sniping a drone out of the sky from hundreds of yards away with like an old-timey pistol, but she can't use that same expertise marksmanship to take out the bride? And that inconsistency runs the gamut, not just in the killing department, but also the rules, as I mentioned earlier. One member of each family gets to go on the hunt, unless they elect to sign it over to someone else. But that person has to hunt. Otherwise, Satan's gonna be pissed, and he's gonna punish you, aka turn you into an explosion of blood. Except for later in the film, someone doesn't partake, and they just leave the movie. And it's never addressed again unless it takes place in the end credits that I didn't stay for because I didn't care enough to. All of this can be overlooked and forgiven if the film was having a lot of fun. Unfortunately, this time around, it's just not. There are silly moments here and there. Some of it works. I got laughs during it for sure. But the silly, fun hijinks, the cool action scenes, the set pieces are all incredibly bland. And the 1 or 2 standout moments are always ruined by some stupid character choice that just completely derails everything, usually having to do with the sisters fighting. And again, Catherine Newton, probably a lovely person in real life. I have nothing against her as an individual. I just don't like her acting. And here it's incredibly obvious how little she's giving when she's paired next to Weaving, who is going all in on this performance. Weaving is like in a different film altogether. She's yelling at the top of her lungs, she's crying hysterically, she's frantic, she's giving real world emotions, which I would say is a major compliment. She's a phenomenal actress, clearly. I just don't care for the direction they pointed this character in. A lot of time has gone between that last film, but you would imagine her coming back, putting on that bloody dress again, having a kid sister to watch over, that she would be a badass this time around. Or at least have some jokes and quips and go, well, yeah, I've already been through this hell before, buckle up. No, she acts like she's discovering all this for the first time over. The trauma is fresh again. And that did not work for me. I wanted more of the meta commentary here. I wanted clever dialogue instead of her just constantly in shambles, breaking down. And you can argue, well, that's how it would be in the real world. Well, this isn't the fucking real world. Even from a visual standpoint, this felt like a step down. And it's the same director again, so I don't know if he changed some of the crew members or what happened, but this one just felt a little cheaper, a little less dark and edgy. And I could see that being a conscious choice if they were trying to make this movie funnier, a little zanier, but the opposite is true. It's just, unfortunately, kind of bland across the board. Watchable, certainly. I don't think it's like a horrible movie by any means. I just thought it was a disappointment. It's a letdown you can get through perfectly fine, but I didn't want perfectly fine from a sequel to a movie that was pretty damn fun the first time around so long ago. There's no justification here. I briefly talked about some of the cast, the other family members that are involved. They're all cliches. They're all the biggest stereotypes you could possibly imagine. You got the Indian family smoking it up in the car. You have the out-of-shape Asian gamer kid who eats licorice and doesn't look up from his mobile device. And naturally, his Asian mother's weapon of choice is a katana. It's like I got thrown into a game of Super Punch-Out. The only character missing was Glass Joe. Ready or Not 2 is an hour and 45 minutes long. It's rated R for blood, a lot of swearing. Oh, one more thing about Weaving that I didn't bring up. As great as she is here with her obviously very dramatic performance, there's one tiny little pet peeve she did like 5 times that really fucking annoyed me. And it's when she would super overpronounce, over-enunciate swear words. I told you to get the fuck out! She will hold on an F word for a nasty amount of time. I hated it every time. You motherfucker! I guess to end on some more positive notes, the film does run very quickly for that hour 45 runtime. There's never really a dull moment. Outside of the sisters bickering amongst themselves, it is going to keep a good clip throughout. And there you have it, my thoughts on Ready or Not, Here I Come. That's what I leave it with. Number 9. Two sisters fight for their life to get away from a satanic cult hell-bent on killing them in a high-stakes game of pussy and rat. That doesn't sound... Checks notes. A high-stakes game of cat and mouse. That's the plot to the movie I saw last week, called Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. Coincidentally, the same plot that I saw in the movie this week. They Will Kill You. It's not quite as clever of a title, but how is the movie? Well, that's a great question I just laid myself up with. Let's see if I can take it to the hoop. Here are my thoughts on They Will Kill You. Zazie Beetz stars as not the bride from Kill Bill, but kinda basically the bride from Kill Bill. Her name is Asia Reeves, and she's looking to patch things up with her sister by saving her ass. Currently, she has taken the job of a housekeeper in a New York City high-rise that also doubles as a great stay for your local satanic cult. You should check out the Continental Breakfast. It's to die for. Literally. I mean, it's basically Hotel Transylvania with a little less blah 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 and a lot more stabby stab. Because They Will Kill You is a violent ass movie, full of bodies being blown away, limbs getting cut off, and you better believe people's heads will roll. And you know what? I'm a sucker for a good decapitation. Short for decapitation. I am also a sucker for Zazie Beetz. Dear gods! I am weak to her presence. Ever since I saw her in Deadpool 2 as Domino, I said to myself, yeah, she's hot. I don't have a lot of intelligent thoughts running through my head from day to day, and my vocab bench is certainly not impressive. But this director gets me to an extent. He knows in order to keep my attention, there's only a few things you really need to do. Number 1. Let's have the lead actress stand outside in the rain just long enough for her to nip out for a full, solid 10 minutes. Number 2, have her do the first badass action scene in nothing but underwear and a tight tee. It was at that point in the movie that I looked around to see if anyone else was present, weighing the pros and cons of going full Pee Wee Herman in that instance. This is a highbrow channel. Subscribe. Unlike Ready or Not, Here I Didn't Come, again, highbrow channel, this one worked better for me. It still wasn't an amazing movie by any stretch, but at 90 minutes and a lot of action and a very fast-paced momentum, it's a very easy watch. It's just movies are expensive as shit. If you have a Regal or AMC pass, I think this is an easy one to sit through, no problems. I don't know if I would run out and watch though with your hard-earned cash, because again, you're gonna drop $15 just to get in the door. This is definitely one you can sit through on streaming, mainly because as much as Zazie Beetz works, and she does work it the entire time, the direction isn't my favorite. It's really going all in on the Quentin Tarantino aesthetic, but not hitting the punches correctly. So you get a lot of campy shit in this. And I'm not immune to cheese. I like decent amount of cheese in my movies, but even this was making me cringe out a little bit too much when the camera would punch in on a character and their name would come up. Or some very out-of-place music would play every time there was an action scene. I can't stress how bad the music choices were in this film. On the other hand, I love Harry Potter, I love that cast, so it was nice seeing Tom Felton here. It was also nice seeing Heather Graham's new face in this. I don't know if she did some heavy Botox, if she just buffed out the wrinkles or whatnot. She looked good, just a little off. Had a bit of that plastic shine to everything. Getting old is a wonderful experience. I know I'm enjoying it. We also have Patricia Arquette managing this hotel. She's giving nothing in this performance. I have yet to decide in her entire career if she's a good actress or not. She's solid-ish in Severance, but then I watch her here and it seems like she's doing a more watered-down version of her Severance character. I just can't figure her out. The good news is virtually nothing is being taken seriously in this film. It's having a fun time. All the cast is clearly in on the joke. And again, there's a lot of action, and I like that they switch it up with each action scene. Asia Reeves has to battle her way to the top of this hotel, and on each floor, there's gonna be a different treat waiting for her. Whether it's an all-out orgy, or it's a bunch of the cleaning staff making sure she doesn't make it to that exit door. There's always something fresh just down the hallway. We'll be watching Asia katana through people, using a hatchet that's been set ablaze to skull someone to death. To really drive the violence are buckets and buckets of blood. Comical levels. A person will slice their arm and it's just a blood sprinkler. And since these hotel members are card-carrying Satan Platinum holders, they can't really die, which does make for some very slick resurrection scenes. Limbs are getting reattached, eyeballs are scooching across the floor trying to find the owner. Again, keeping things fresh, keeping things moving. If you're into the grindhousey style of action, that's kind of what this is going for. But on that cheaper horror budget. Some of the framing is not the best, some of the shots feel a little out of focus, but then immediately in the next scene, the director will do something kind of fresh and creative. So while the tone and the feel of the film is consistent throughout, there is a bit of a copy-paste in terms of the presentation, taking things from other directors, trying to put your stamp on it, and not quite nailing it down fully. However, again, 90 minutes, easy breezy, beautiful cover girl, in and out. You got Zazie Beetz nipping out, looking like a queen. There is some badass kills, there's gallons of blood. Not a bad watch. If you got the time, if you got the money, you could do worse than this one. Again though, if you're on a budget, if you're looking for just really good films to go out and see, you could wait till this one comes home on streaming inevitably in 2 or 3 weeks and you're not gonna miss much. This doesn't scream, see me in IMAX. You'll do more than fine to check it out at home. Number 8. A couple months back, maybe it was 3 weeks ago. Everything comes out on digital so quickly, it's really hard to know at this point. A movie went to theaters called Over Your Dead Body instead of Over My Dead Body. It's a play. It'll make sense if you watch the film. But I already did watch the film, and I'm gonna give you a spoiler-free review on it right now. Weaving is back, baby! She teams up with Jason. I play the sad, sappy mop guy in every single movie and TV show I've ever done, Seagull. This R-rated, just under 2-hour flick is gonna keep you on the edge of your seat trying to figure out what happens next, as there's a good amount of twists and turns to keep the story fresh. I missed this movie when it came to theaters because again, it was there for like a week, I feel like, and there was some big hitters that kind of dwarfed it. But I checked it out last night and I gotta tell you, it's a nice little flick. It's nothing amazing, it's not gonna set the world ablaze by any means, But there was enough there that was definitely entertaining and kept me on the hook. So here's the lay of the land for you. Very simple, straightforward premise on its face. We have a couple who's been together for many years. They're financially in ruin. Jason Segel plays a cucked out director who knows his partner has not been the most loyal of gals, and he's kind of got a fun idea of taking her up to the cabin, making her favorite meal for her, and then killing and dumping her body in the lake. I mean, every relationship goes through ups and downs like this, I feel like. She's in a similar position as she hates his guts as well. He pushed her into acting, but she never felt he really was confident in her skills. Otherwise, he, as a director, you would think would put her in some of his films. I mean, James Gunn does that with his wife. We can't all be James Gunn, I guess. If that wasn't enough for you, there's also a secondary situation going on with some escaped criminals, two of which played by Timothy Olyphant and Juliette Lewis, decide to hide out in the very cabin that these two lovebirds are shacking up at for the weekend. Naturally, chaos ensues. Listen, I'm a huge fan of The Ref. It's a kind of a mandatory watch every holiday season for me and the family. It's a hilarious film about a burglar who hides out in a couple's home who's on the verge of a divorce. So he takes them hostage, and he ends up being the victim here as he has to listen to these two fight about every single fucking thing on the planet. Over Your Dead Body definitely has that vibe to it. We are going to hear this couple constantly bickering throughout, judging each other's every word, before inevitably trying to murder the other. This ain't no Ref though. But it is entertaining. As far as the performances go, both these leads are very much in their comfort zone. Jason Segel, once again, playing this simpy type of mamby-pamby character who has to try to toughen up and prove himself. He's good here. I think he's actually better here than some of the recent stuff I've seen him in because he gets to showcase some of that raw emotion once in a while, weaving right at home. This is kind of like another day at the races for her. She's got a gun, she's got blood all over her face, she's yelling constantly, and this duo does really play well together. It is very violent and gruesome at times. Everything looks very realistic though. Some good blood here and there, some good creative kills. And again, because you don't know what's going to be around the next corner, it does keep you interested to keep pushing on. Now, it's not perfect by any means. I said it's a fun, good watch. I don't think it's a great watch. There are frustrating and just outright silly, convenient moments where the bad guy's just kind of sitting there monologuing while the good guy runs away. Or the good guy will get the upper hand, knock one of them down, and then opt not to kill them for no reason at all. Because the tone is so silly, that stuff can kind of be forgiven because it's kind of light and whatever at the end of the day. But on the other hand, it also works as a crutch to keep this movie from having to put in the extra effort to make sure some of the shots are blocked off better so you don't see the bad guy just kind of like standing around watching as the others get away. It's a little messy at times, but overall, some really fun dialogue, some great character moments, good visuals, it looks very nice, solid soundtrack. Overall, this is a nice, easy watch and an easy recommendation. It's under 2 hours, moves very quickly, and it's different. I mean, unless you've seen The Ref, then it's the same, but you know, with blood and killing. So yeah, I would definitely recommend Over Your Dead Body and The Ref. You get 2 recommendations for the price of fun. Number 7. As some of you know, last week I was a little under the weather. I'm still not 100%, but we're getting there. It's been like 11 days now or something. It's quite ridiculous. So I missed out on one of the big new A24 films to be released called Undertone. That all changed last night when I went out and watched the sucker, and I gotta tell you, I had zero expectations going in. In fact, I didn't even know this was a movie until I started reading some of my comments and people said, why have you not reviewed Undertone? It's hot trash. I need to hear you destroy this movie. And so part of me was a little excited. I was like, okay, well, a 90-minute shit show that I can make fun of, that's not a terrible waste of my time. Those videos always do well for me. But then I saw comments that said the movie's incredibly boring, it's slow, it's miserable to get through, and that started to turn me off a little bit more. All of that said, I still went in hoping for the best. With A24, it's incredibly polarizing. A 10 for someone is a 0 for others. And this film Undertone does definitely fall under the elevated horror umbrella that's been popular in the last decade or so. That can be dicey for me as well. But I'm gonna give you my thoughts in a spoiler-free video for Undertone. Let's get into it. Undertone is an R-rated, hour-and-a-half horror film that really only has a cast of 2. And the entire thing's gonna take place in one central location. This time, a house. Location, of course, short for location. Our main protagonist is a character named Evie, which already gives her big shoes to fill, as Evie is a very important Pokemon for the Pokemon community, with a multitude of beautiful evolutions, so I think very fondly of the character, of the name. So this actress, Nina Kiri, better bring her A game. And she does. Thankfully, she does. She was kind of giving me older sister of Jenna Ortega vibes. Just a couple years older. She looked a little like her, sounded a bit like her. Something about her whole energy was giving me that vibe. And I like it. I like it a lot. Which is good, because again, the whole movie pretty much rests on her shoulders and her co-host podcast friend Justin, who we never see the face of. No. This is her and her alone. Well, I guess she is living and taking care of her sick mother who's dying upstairs in the bedroom. The premise of Undertone is very simple and straightforward. This Evie character is a podcaster. Her co-host Justin, from across the pond, meets up with her at around 3 a.m., and they get to work talking about the mysterious, murder-filled, disturbing storyline of the week. And this one is a doozy, as they have 10 secret recordings from an unknown source that are going to slowly ratchet up to something unspeakably evil. Making matters a tidge more inconvenient is Evie's mom is acting all kinds of weird. She's got religious shit all over the house, artifacts and whatnot. She's singing Mary Had a Little Lamb and London Bridges and a bunch of disturbing old childhood classics to her. And all of this stuff may or may not connect as the story goes. It does, obviously it does. But it's fascinating. And I guess what I'm getting at here is Undertone worked for me, friends. It did give me shades of Hereditary, very eerie nature to it all. Things are very unsettling, and eventually it's gonna go a little bonkers cuckoo at the end, and you're not sure what the fuck is going on. But I guess what I would really compare it to is another gimmicky sort of a horror film that came out last year called Good Boy, which was told entirely from the perspective of the dog. I think this one works quite a bit better than that. This one is able to sustain my interest more, mainly because I do find the whole idea of secret messages in audio, playing things back in reverse, hearing tiny details that can be amped up like 1000%, and then it's like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. It also helped that I was one of maybe 4 people in the entire theater, so you really felt like you were in it with this character. A movie like Undertone really does demand you give it the full attention and get yourself in an atmosphere like it. This is not going to be a film for many. Because of that elevated horror style, it's unconventional. There are some jump scares for sure, but this is not a popcorn horror film like a Scream. This is meant to disturb you and to be a little slower by design. Some people won't have the patience for it. I was fully engaged. I was creeped out actually throughout a lot of it. Now, the big selling point that they do every year is this is the scariest movie to ever be made ever in existence. While I don't think that's the case, I gotta tell you, I was genuinely kind of freaked out at a couple parts. And a lot of that has to do with the brilliant sound design. The actress playing Evie, she's fine at looking pretty and concerned. I don't think she's given some like amazing performance here. She's just keeping me along with it. But the production, which was clearly on the lower budget side, is phenomenal. And I say it's on the lower budget side because again, we're in one location. There's basically one main actress here for the whole thing. It is a 90-minute runtime. There is not any real special effects that I could see. It's a lot of practical stuff, and it's not like it's going non-stop. This is a movie focused on the eerie noises coming out of those headphones. In fact, you're gonna spend probably a full 30 minutes just listening to stuff from different camera angles as the director pretty smoothly moves that camera around this disturbing house. It does require a little heavy lifting from you, the audience member, as to why this person is still even listening to this audio. I get that it's her job and whatnot, but considering the situation she's dealing with, as the nights go by, you might just go, get the fucking mom in the hospital. Okay, have a hospice nurse come over and take care of her. Go get an apartment or go live with your boyfriend or whatever's going on with that relationship. Evie does have a side story with a lover, but that doesn't really go anywhere substantial. There's reason for it, but it's not like a fleshed out thing you care about at all. It's just to add a little bit of layer to a story that's going to play out. I do want to give a shout out, though, to the writer and director, Ian Tuason. I apologize if I butchered that name. You made a damn good movie, in my eyes. I think that it was executed as well as it could possibly be done. I won't say I understood it completely by the ending. It is a movie that I think you could watch 1 or 2 times and really take in some of the story beats, and it probably would add up better at the end. But for me, it kind of, I was just along for the ride and enjoying that, not necessarily the destination, more or less the journey getting there. The movie's rated R, but there's really nothing here in terms of violence. I mean, again, it's a one-person show, so she's not going to get murdered like 6 times over. It's mainly for the swearing and the disturbing dialogue you're going to hear on the podcast as those recordings are playing. Now, if I was Evie, I'd probably set up my podcast studio in a room with a door you could lock, and then I would also position the desk so that I can kind of see the whole area. She, though, opts to be in the downstairs family room, kitchen-y area. So there's a lot of ground for shadows to play out, for reflections in mirrors to kind of catch your eye as you're listening. The director is so smart to frame these shots up wide for the most part. So you are listening, you're engaged, but there's always that little tingle on the corner of your neck where you're looking at the stairs and there's a shadow cast in a specific way where you're like, did something move over there? Did something move over there? There's scary stuff on the podcast, but I'm also looking over here at all times. It's so good at putting you in her headspace because she's always thinking the same thing. She has noise canceling headphones on, which means anything in the outside world could creep up on her at any given moment. And if you're in a theater alone by yourself, that same thing could happen when a person brushes by you. Oh, I thought I was alone in here. And then you turn back and no one's there. Jesus, what is going on in this movie? It was refreshing, it was creative, it was different from what I usually see. And for that and that alone, I would say, yeah, this is definitely one to check out. You may hate it. I mean, again, listen, I didn't know what this was, but I saw in the comments people saying this movie sucks, one of the worst of the year. Please give it a hard time, Adam. And again, I planned on doing just that because those videos do so much better than the positive ones. But I'm not gonna lie. I would never lie about that. I really enjoyed this movie. I don't know if it's necessarily one I would sit through again. I mean, if my wife wanted to watch it, I'd have no problem doing that. Mainly because there is enough intrigue with the storyline that takes place that I could pick up some extra cherries for the sundae at the end. Lastly, I'm not a sound guy, so I'm not going to pick apart, how they edit things and how quickly things are played in reverse and whatnot. I don't know the ins and outs of all that. It did to me, as a common peasant, sound incredibly good, though. Very crisp on the dialogue, on those sound effects, on the music. Just the way they utilized all of that with the surround sound in the theater, it really played out well. So if you do have any desire to go to this, I would see it in the theaters because you're going to get that full horror experience and you're going to get lost in it, as opposed to watching it in the middle of the day with the sun reflecting through the window, hitting your TV, drowning out the darkness, which there is a lot of. This is a movie that takes place in a very dim lit house, and they kind of excuse that because the mom is upstairs sick, the daughter is trying to be respectful, keeping the lights off, it's 3 a.m. I can excuse it all. Again, the common sense part of me would not be in this fucking place after a couple of nights of weird stuff going on, or at the very least, I do this in my bedroom with the door locked, but you gotta always turn it off a little bit if you want to really enjoy this stuff. And I do think it's at least competent enough where I wasn't insulted by character choices, more so than it wasn't. I think I'll leave it there. Very well done. This was a highlight for me so far in 2026, which has been a pretty rough year so far. A lot of bad shit out there. I'm gonna give props where it's deserved. I think Undertone definitely gets the job done. Number 6. You know, it's been somewhat of a fun yearly tradition that I go out and watch the next crappy movie from the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey cinematic universe, the Twisted Childhood universe as it was rebranded. And seeing as the first film came out in 2023 and there's now 5 movies in this universe, it has been more than a yearly tradition. They're churning these things out fast as hell. Although I did miss Bambi. I didn't see that one. And so it's safe to say, going into Pinocchio Unstrung, my expectations were at an all-time low. I'm not the biggest fan of Pinocchio in general. Little wooden boy who wants to be a real kid, gets stuck inside a whale, befriends Jiminy Cricket, he's got Geppetto working in the shop. Not my favorite character and story, so hearing that this was going to be next up on the roster for this Pooniverse, I was not looking forward to this. I did bring with my 14-year-old son to the movies, and this would end up being his first entry into this world, and I imagined it would probably be his last after watching. My son was right to make this his first entry, because as it turns out, not only is Pinocchio Unstrung easily the best film in this whole universe, it's also just a damn good movie on its own. And I'm going to tell you about it in a spoiler-free review. This movie shocked me in a lot of ways. The biggest one being that it's directed by the same dude that did a lot of the other Pooniverse films. Rhys Frake Waterfield. I don't know if I'm saying that name correctly. I apologize, sir, if it's incorrect, but my gods, have you grown as a director. The quality between Blood and Honey 1 and Pinocchio Unstrung is night and day different. After only about 10 minutes of watching the movie, my son turned to me and said, "Dad, this is actually good." And I found myself nodding right alongside him thinking, this is an actual film. This no longer felt like something that could be easily mistaken for a film set in the Gingerbread Man universe. No, we got a movie. Great cinematography, very solid acting, especially to the little ones in the film. We have a couple kid actors, they do a bang-up job. It always can be dicey when you have to go with some younger kids and hope that they can hold their own. These guys do a terrific job. The boy named James is awesome. The kid who voiced Pinocchio knocked it out of the fucking park. While it would be funny to have him say, "I'm a real boy," while he's ripping out the guts of someone, I do like the more subtle, darker approach to it, making him feel like a more realistic character. And the realism is driven all over the production of this movie with practical effects left and right. You got a marionette, you got animatronics, you got puppeteering. I absolutely dug how Pinocchio looked. And you could tell these guys took their time to actually come up with a character that was both friendly-ish looking, but also nightmare fuel scary if necessary. If you make the Pinocchio wooden doll to be incredibly standoffish and just scary beyond all means right out of the gates, you lose the plausibility of the boy ever becoming friends with him in the first place. Which brings me to the plot here. What we have is a story revolving around young James, who has had tragedy after tragedy, losing his parents and losing that of his best friend. And so his grandpapa, Geppetto, takes it upon himself to make sure James does not lose another person in his life. On top of that, he's been toiling in the basement secretly working on a pet project that's really gonna help James get a friend he needs. A friend that can never die. Reminds me of myself. I'm gonna live forever. Anyway, James takes a minute or two to warm up to this wooden abomination. I believe one of the first things out of his mouth is, "What the fuck is that?" Which I really appreciated because James, who looks to be in his, mid-teens, truly responds how my son, who's 14, would have as well if he saw this disgusting creature flopping around all over the ground. What the fuck is that? Since I brought up the salty language, I should point out this movie's very much rated R for swearing, for a scant amount of violence and gore, nothing too major. No, I'm kidding, this movie's violent as shit. There's some very gory moments. When our boy Pinocchio feels like his best bud is being threatened, he's gonna have to take matters into his own hands. Which means, once in a while, Pinocchio's gonna have to choke a bitch. At one point, he scalps an insanely attractive, what I imagine is like a TikTok influencer model. I don't know who she is, but we do get an ass shot, and that thing looked unnatural in the best ways possible. Also, she was fully make-upped during the shower scene, which I found kind of odd. If you are looking for nudity, though, that's really not in this. You get the butt shot for half a second, and that's it. It's like a side butt, like a side ass. Now, this one's squarely focused on the friendship and the violent kills that come with it. Think Megan. Think modern version of Child's Play, where, you know, they have a new toy in the house who's supposed to be their best bud, and they take that a little too far, meaning everyone else is kind of a target for me to make sure that they don't get to my buddy. I mean, Pinocchio kind of is Megan in this, at one point even rocking some long flowing blonde hair. The only thing missing was like a puppet dance number. Oh my god, that would have been great. They got to do that for the sequel. I need to see a Pinocchio dance. What they do absolutely utilize is his #1 trademark, which is growing that nose out. Not only does he occasionally lie, which causes it to elongate, he also uses it as a weapon. Think X-Men 3. I mean, unfortunately, you're going to have to think X-Men 3. Remember Woodman, the guy that could produce wood? I think he was a mutant made solely for the movie, and I don't know why, because he sucked. But Pinocchio does that with his nose, grows it out, breaks it off, and throws it through a person's hand. That's the kind of creativity I like. And I really appreciated the vicious kills here and how they did not shy away from the goodie shots. Now, with all the glazing, I do have some issues, mainly with some editing problems, and the story is still a bit of a shit show. I mean, on its face, it makes enough sense for you to go, okay, I'm on board. You know, the grandpa made this kid in the basement. We're going to learn how he did it. It adds up enough. There are warping problems, though, where Pinocchio and the kids will be chasing after each other, and they'll just pop into places willy-nilly somehow. I have no idea how Pinocchio is tracking down some of these bullies and then just magically appearing there. Like, did you get an address from someone that I missed off camera? You shove a GPS tracking device up that kid's ass? How did you find him? There's also a couple kills early on that are phenomenal, maybe my favorite kills of the movie, but I don't actually know how the kills took place. Pinocchio saunters into a workout area. There's a chick on a treadmill, and out of nowhere, she just crumples down and gets completely bodied by this thing. The weightlifting bro who has a stupid amount of weight on, he gets taken out by it. It's a gory, awesome sequence. But I was so puzzled by how it all unfolded. I turned to my son, I said, what happened? He had no idea. He's like, I think that Pinocchio used his, does he have magic? And he made the treadmill speed up. But then I called a buddy who had just gotten out of the film too. He texted me and said, I thought Pinocchio was great, ton of fun, good acting, it knows what it is. We chatted for a while about it afterwards, and I asked him, what the hell happened in the workout scene? And he thought that she got a glimpse of him and got scared and sped up the machine. In either case, he was also kind of confused. So while the kills are great, while there is some awesome gore, there was some editing issues that didn't really line up really well with what played out. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that these guys are making a movie with a lot of practical effects work. That puppet had to have been a pain in the ass to get all those emotions and reaction shots of the face, along with moving the hands and the legs independently. I am positive there was just some stuff that did not line up perfectly, and when they got to editing, they thought, well, we don't have the shot how we needed it, but they can probably fill in the pieces. It was also a nice touch in the credits to show how they did some of these effects, including a really nice introduction to the movie where it's done with shadow puppets, and I thought, that's probably animated. Until I heard it was not animated. They actually did it old school style, which props to them for going all in on this. When it was announced initially they were making a Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, I thought, first off, amazing title. Secondly, I hope they actually try with this and they don't just cash grab on the fact that the trademark was up and they could utilize the name and make a quick buck. In hindsight, I think it was a bit of both for them. I think they were trying to rush the product out. I do think they were also in tandem trying to make a good movie to the best of their abilities and budget. But right after the first movie came out, it was clear they were attempting to make something they thought was great, building up this entire cinematic universe, and even disowning the first film in a way by stating in the sequel, Winnie the Pooh 2, that it was a movie within this universe. So Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 1 is based on the events of the real Christopher Robin, which we're introduced to in the second one, who's played by Scott Chambers, one of the creators of this whole thing. So instead of starting over from scratch, we're just gonna kind of start over from scratch and pretend that first thing is like a fan-made film inside of this one. It's a bold strategy, and I guess it's paying off because here we are, 5 movies later with more to come. I know I'm kind of all over the place with this review. That's typically what you're gonna get with me, but there's also a lot of emotions here because I was fully expecting to go in, hate the movie, and shit all over it like I always do. But now they throw me for a loop? What the hell is happening in 2026? Now we're making good movies in this universe? Now there's actually a small part of me that's interested / excited to see where this thing goes next? Wild stuff indeed. Now I would be a fucking idiot if I didn't mention one of the most prominent, iconic names in horror is also in this movie, and that's Robert Englund. I mean, he's there in voice only. He's playing the part of the devil on our Pinocchio's shoulder, simply known as Cricket. And as always with Robert Englund, he's a delight. Every time he calls someone a bitch, every time he makes some small little quip, it lands. He's one of the only things that looks animated in this entire production. Definitely sticks out a little bit. It could use some more polish, but it's not terrible all the same. Now, before I conclude, I just want to point out, even though I am very fond of this movie, much like I enjoy the Terrifier movies for what they are, these aren't films that I would say are on the level of like a Weapons or Obsession or something older like The Thing, which is one of my favorite horror films. But it is squarely in a lane now that I feel is appropriate for what they're trying to do. It is a funny movie. There's lots of little references to Pinocchio. There's just a lot of funny little jokes. Pinocchio's great in this. And so they have taken what I thought was a very wrong turn early on into just straight nightmare horror stuff and kind of falling on their face and turning it more to not parody, but at least a little sillier, a little zanier, while maintaining a higher level of gross out moments. They find themselves, I think, in a much better position. This is still not going to appeal to mainstream moviegoers, and that's perfectly fine. They have a target demographic now, and I'm part of it. At least for this film. I've hated all the other ones, but this one got me. So to wrap it up, if you've enjoyed these movies so far, I think this is going to be an easy win for you, an easy sell. If, however, you're like me and you've thought this has just been a complete train wreck, I'm not necessarily telling you to rush out and watch it, but if you do find yourself in the theaters, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised by this one. It genuinely feels like a completed movie. It doesn't feel like a shit show mess with poor acting, terrible editing, a nonsensical storyline. Yes, it does have some rough spots. It's far from perfect, but considering all the practical elements here, considering all the like fun shots and dialogue choices, this was a good time. And at 90 minutes, it moves buttery smooth fast. Number 5. All right, it's 2026 and we have a brand new horror movie, yeah, in January. Oh, but hey, last January Companion came out and that film was awesome. But this new movie is from the director of Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City, and 47 Meters Down Uncaged. Oh, so the question I'm here to answer today is this. Is Primate, the new film that just released, a surprise hit? Or an unsurprising shit? I'm gonna tell you about it in a spoiler-free review. What we're dealing with today is an R-rated, hour and 29-minute film. Oh my God, that sounds good. Under 90 minutes, you're in and out of a horror flick? I like that. So many movies today waste our precious time meandering about. Just get to the meat of it. And you better believe this movie does. But it doesn't fast forward on anything in particular. It does have a nice pace to it. It builds up some characters before it breaks their bones down. The premise of Primate is incredibly simple and straightforward. We follow the main protagonist here, Lucy. I'm not familiar with the actress playing her, but she looks like a blend of 3 different ones. Brie Larson popped out a couple times for me, and that's not a bad thing. She's finally heading home with a couple friends to spend some nice time with her sister Erin and their father Adam. Well, would you look at that? I share the same name as her dad. Adam. He's a successful writer with a beautiful mansion, and he's about to have his book series turned into a film. Well, our similarities have officially stopped. The man is also deaf. Ha! I got you on that one. I can hear perfectly. That was in poor taste. As luck wouldn't have it, he needs to take off for the weekend right when his beautiful daughter gets home. Good thing for her, they keep a chimp in the house that can keep her company. Actually, the chimp sleeps outside in his own little paddock, but he's free to roam the grounds whenever he sees fit. He's very much housebound. He's part of the family, and his name is Ben. And not only is it bad timing for Lucy that her father's leaving right when she's getting home so they don't get to hang out, but also her chimpanzee brother Ben came down with a bad case of rabies and is now terrorizing everyone in the house, which include her best friend, the best friend tag-along, some dude, and a couple of fuckboys they met on the plane. Now I know what you're thinking, Adam, enough with the foreplay. How is this movie? Well, it's pretty awesome. I had a really good time with this one. And I know what else you're thinking. How are the kills? How are the scares? How are the things that really make a horror film a horror film? The kills are vicious. They're brutal. It's like the director watched that scene from Nope and said, I want to make that movie. I want to make that film with the crazy chimp that kills everyone. And this director wisely keeps the camera on the carnage. There is a point early on that sets the stage perfectly where a person gets pulled away into the shadows and you hear the vicious sounds as he's getting pummeled to death by the chimp. And I thought, kind of your lazy, half-ass way to introduce the film where you show the kill off camera, you don't get to, and then it peekaboos you at the last moment. I eat that up. It's telling you this isn't your basic by-the-numbers crap. People aren't making dumb choices. You're not getting frustrated. Well, yeah, that does happen. There is going to be some dumb choices. That comes with the territory. I will say, for the most part, this is a pretty intelligent bunch considering what they're dealing with right now. They find themselves between a chimp and a hard place. And, phones are in the other room, and it's tough to get to because you got a crazed lunatic chimp on your ass. There's just a lot of things going against them. And the script has a fun time playing with these different elements, such as the deaf father, such as the douchebag drunk guys wandering around, such as putting our characters in a swimming pool with only one exit. As lovely as the ladies are to watch, there is unfortunately no nudity. So might have to dock at a point for that, but we don't really keep score here. I just tell you whether or not a movie is a enjoyable experience and what you can expect. And for me, this was a very easy win. I went in not even knowing what I was watching. It was one of those Mystery Monday movies at the AMC. Nicole Kidman comes out, tips the hat, winks at me, tells me to go get a Coca-Cola Classic and a smile, and we sat back together and watched some carnage unfold for under 90 gorgeous minutes. Ugh. Now that I've glazed this donut for a while, let me tell you a couple of slight negatives. Nothing that I would say go cry to mom about, but enough for me to warn you. This film primately takes place at night. You're going to get a good chunk of this picture, like an hour in mainly dark setting, which is not a problem if you're at a decent theater with a good screen like I was, but I can see some of the shittier quality movie theaters maybe having a hard time getting those colors to pop at night. And if you plan on waiting for this to hit streaming inevitably in 2 weeks, like all movies are these days, then definitely watch this one in a dark environment, not in the middle of the day. Shutting the blinds is not going to be enough, okay? You get any sort of hit of sun on that screen, any sort of natural light, it's game over. You're not going to see shit. The only other criticism I have is I don't know how they made that chimp look so real. And yeah, that's not actually a criticism, that's a veiled compliment. Normally in a movie like this, where you have a crazed animal on screen for a good amount of time, you're gonna see some corners cut. Hell, even in the aforementioned Nope, that chimpanzee looked pretty CG, and I love that movie. But in Primate 2026, this thing looked about as real as it possibly could. I learned via that new fandangled thing, the internet, that it was a combination of practical and CG elements that brought this chimp to life. I really couldn't find any further evidence outside of the 5 seconds I took to look before filming, but yeah, it definitely worked. Whatever whiz-bang magicry is going on behind the scenes. And so did this film. Kept a very good clip the whole time. The stupidity was kept at a minimum, a little bit here and there, but you can't expect people to be perfect. Who's going to be perfect in a scenario like this? Mistakes are going to be made. I leave a pretty wide berth for these people to do such before I get annoyed. And even though the visuals are not the most exciting thing to play out, the blocking is great, the way that they move the camera around these scenarios, the way that they frame up the antagonist in different vantages, it's all working. It's all great. And I want you to mark your calendar for January 5th. It's the first movie I saw in 2026 that hit theaters, and so far, we're 1 for 1. It's gonna be a good year, baby. Number 4. Dig through the ditches and burn through the witches and slam in the back of my Dragula. They should have played that at the end credits because it says burn in there. You get it. Hey kids, it's story time. So gather around and I'm gonna bust out the Necronomicon. We'll have some milk and cookies as I read from the Book of the Dead in a brand new 2026 film, Evil Dead Burn. I saw the film last night. I was pumped for this one as I really enjoyed Evil Dead Rise. Most of the Evil Dead movies are a good time. I'm gonna let you know if this one is as well in a spoiler-free review. We had Evil Dead Rise, Evil Dead Kills, Evil Dead Ends, Evil Dies Tonight. And here we are with Evil Dead Burns. Some of those were maybe from the Halloween franchise, but they're all kind of using the same naming convention, I've noticed. Now, I want to start by saying I was a little bummed out when I heard this was announced that Lee Cronin was not coming back for this one because I dug the look, the style, the comedy infused in the last Evil Dead Rise movie. That's the kind of stuff I look for. That dark, nasty humor mixed in with the blood and gore and creative kills. He would unfortunately go on to do The Mummy, which I did not like in the slightest, and I'm pretty sure those two are in the same universe, he said at some point, or people made it up online and I believed it and I'm repeating it so that you also believe it. I don't know in actuality if any of these movies are connected in the slightest, because Evil Dead Burns feels very self-contained, which is a pro and I suppose a con for people that are looking for lore mixed in with the other films. There is some semblance, I suppose you could say, of reference, or you could maybe come to that conclusion in your own creative way. But for me, I did not notice anything really married to the previous entries. What we have here is a very standalone film with a new director, and not to use a tired phrase, but this movie was a very mixed hag. That's the expression, I believe. Well, I'm expressing it either way. On one hand, especially in the earlier scenes, it feels very amateurish. Like almost a fan-made film is the vibes I was getting. The second half is way stronger. Some of the camera shots are very creative. That thing is flying around upside down. There's an awesome mirror reflection shot at one point. And it also just visually looks more striking, especially in the final act. Early on, though, the camera is really pushed in on a lot of actors, really up in their grills. There's also a club scene within the first, I think, 10 minutes of the movie. I don't know why directors keep doing this, but strobing, throbbing light effects are not pleasant to look at. They hurt my fucking eyeballs. And this one goes on for what felt like 5 minutes. It was a miserable scene. It looked ugly. It wasn't particularly acted well. And I didn't really care about anything going on. Again, though, the second half of the movie is so much better. It's shot way cleaner. There is room to breathe. It's more expansive. Even when it is quaint and takes place mainly in a house, you get a better feel of the surroundings, and it's just more competently executed than that early stuff. Unlike some of the other previous Evil Dead entries, this one does not have near the amount of humor they did, and that's a bummer because that's what separates it from the other works. I mean, Sam Raimi really set the tone. There's always some of that nasty, mischievous humor mixed in with the downright disturbing stuff. I mean, he just came out with Send Help earlier this year. Very Sam Raimi. In comparison, this is more straightforward, violent, gross. Thankfully, it does have a lot of creativity in the kill department, but it also has a lot of just questionable head-scratching things when it comes to the story. Since this is a possession thing, of course, you got demons hopping into bodies, taking over them, and then they acquire superhuman strength. They can't be killed very easily. This leads to some very visceral moments for sure. However, I didn't really understand how the possession stuff worked in this one. In Evil Dead Rise, it made a lot more sense to me. In this one, though, the Book of the Dead seems like an afterthought. I don't even know why it's in the movie because it has no real purpose. And I also didn't really understand who could be possessed, how, and when. Sometimes I was like, oh, okay, I get why this person was taken over, but other times it just seems like whatever the story needs to happen, happens. And as for the lore, this one does expand on it some, for those wondering. The last couple movies I feel like were pretty straightforward, where there's the Book of the Dead, people read from it, they get possessed, and shit goes south, inevitably ending with the hero using a chainsaw to cut them into pieces. It's very formulaic in that way. This does subvert a little bit, add some new stuff into the mix, without being insulting. Again, I was just kind of puzzled as to how this person was being taken over and why that person wasn't intervening, and can you possess two people at once? It seemed like it was always one at a time. It was very, very odd. Another big step down is the cast. I didn't find these folks to be near as engaging or interesting as they were in Rise. The evil mom in the last film was creepy. She did a lot of disturbing shit, and I was genuinely concerned for the well-being of the people in that house. In this one, you have a chick named Tina who gets possessed, and honestly, she's just too hot. The whole time I was thinking, yeah, I still would. Even when she's crawling around on the ceiling, drooling a mixture of saliva and blood into the face of someone else, I could not help but feel turned on. In fact, sadly, picturing that moment is now the only way I can achieve climax. One of the main characters we follow is Joseph. He's a total bitch boy. I'm getting pretty annoyed by the new Hollywood trope of our main lead guy has to be the biggest mamby-pamby bitch on the planet. It's fine to do it once in a while, but I swear every horror film now has the wimpiest loser, most unlikable, frustrating lead you can watch. Joseph is basically Bear from Obsession, and he kind of looks like him too, so I'm just annoyed by this guy. The main focus of this story is on Alice. She's in a toxic relationship with her husband, who, unfortunately for himself, not for her, has died. After attending the crappiest funeral ever, she heads over to his folks' place for a nice little sit-down meal to figure out what they're gonna do with the restaurant they co-owned. And it's very clear early on that the in-laws are not huge fans of Alice. Now, any reasonable person would have said, hey, my husband's dead. Fuck you. I have no reason to talk to you people ever again. Alice is gonna sit there for an uncomfortable amount of time, take a bunch of shit, and never once think about leaving. Little head scratching, honestly. If we could have found a better way to keep her in that house that made more sense, I would have been for it. Eventually, though, things are gonna go very bad, and they're gonna be stuck in this place, regardless of whether or not she likes these people. Now, messy story stuff aside, I want to get to the stuff that really works. Overall, I should make it clear. I enjoyed this movie. I think it's a step back from some of the others, but I still had a very fun time with this. Mainly because even though some of the character stuff doesn't work the best and the plot is a little bit iffy, as far as how the demon stuff is even working and how the book fits into this thing, there is a lot of action and gore and kills to keep you on edge and keep you hooked. Again, some of the shots in this are very interesting. They are pulling you into it, and it looks mostly disturbingly real when a person blows the side of his head off or a woman cuts off her leg to escape the clutches of a chair she's strapped to. The movie's called Evil Dead Burn. There is a lot of fire in this movie. They really went all in with the burn aesthetic. Oftentimes when you got fire, you got CGI. I'm sure they use plenty of it here, but there looked to be a lot of on-set practical fire, or maybe it was superimposing or some older tricks. Either way, it looked pretty damn good most of the time. I can't stand when you see the super fake flames of the fire. It just takes you out of the picture. So overall, production-wise, yeah, some of the cinematography and stuff is iffy early on, but it really gets nailed later on in the film. There's some really awesome stunt work going on too, so props to the stunt people. They're flying downstairs, they're getting chucked across rooms, they're super quickly climbing up the sides of a freaking house. There's a really great one take where Alice is crawling around on the ground and you see people just flying all over, shit's breaking, there's stuff getting impaled in legs. While Alice is crying. I don't want to be here. When the movie opens itself up to be more playful in those moments, it's really shining. I just wish there was more of that. The film has a great score too. I love hearing that loud, bombastic beat in the background. It makes the scale feel so much more epic, even when you are tightly confined into this one space. So, long story short, if you're a fan of the Evil Dead movies, I think that this one will work well enough for you. I don't know if it's going to be anyone's favorite unless you're just in it for some of the brutal kills and some of the gore, some of the gross out moments. This one, I think, probably has the most out of all of them. I'm still the most put off in the best way possible by the cheese grater to the leg from Rise, but this one definitely has its share of cringe look-away shots. But I don't think you need to look away from Evil Dead Burn. All right, there you go. My thoughts on the movie. Overall, a very positive experience. Would love to hear from you in the comments below if you saw this one or now you're maybe a little bit more fired up to see it. Fire because of the burning. Number 3. The teens got their 2026 chicken jockey with a little film called Backdoors. No, Backrooms. Backdoors is something entirely different. That's a film I've been trying to get my wife interested in quite some time. Subscribe. No. Backrooms is something entirely different. This is a film that's very abstract by design, popularized online in the deep bowels of the internet. There's weird lore behind it. People are just like throwing random crap at the wall, seeing what sticks. And that's it's kind of what happens here. And because you're not really sure where this film's going, you can't help but be interested to see where you end up. I don't know if that made any sense, so that's appropriate for this movie review. Okay, for the one of you that didn't know, this movie was directed by a 20-year-old. It's been kind of the big buzz thing around. It's an artsy-fartsy A24 film with a fresh face off the mean streets of YouTube. At only 20 years young, Kane Parsons is making his big screen debut, but this kid's been working for many, many moons. Hell, he wrote the script for Backrooms while he was still in utero. I like to think I provide facts here on Adam Does Movies. Here's a couple more facts for you. The movie's rated R for swearing, some blood. That's about it. Scares, I don't know if that gets an R rating for being a little scary. And it's about an hour and 50 minutes long. At times, it's presented in a found footage style like Blair Witch Project or Paranormal Activity. But most of the time, it's very much framed up on a nice tripod, spared no expense. Well, they did spare expense. Reportedly, the film only cost $750,000. And you know what? I think it's going to make that money back and some. In fact, I know it is, as a sequel has already been greenlit. This movie is doing massive numbers at the box office. I will be talking about that in a separate video. I went with my son and my buddy. My son's only 14 years old. He was very excited for this film. He knows everything going on. He plays Roblox or some shit. I don't know. Me and the other sad middle-aged father went thinking, this could be good. The horror's been doing very well this year. Let's see what this Parsons bastard has to say. And it's not so much he had anything to say, but my God, does he know how to film already? Shout out to everybody on the production team because they made some great use of these spaces. The film's focus is on two central characters, Clark and Mary. Clark manages a furniture store, poorly, might I add you, where he dresses up as a pirate and tries to get people in for a great deal, matey. Complete with an eye patch, a peg leg, and a fake parrot. Mary's whole deal is she's Clark's psychologist, but she's also got a skeleton in the closet. She's got some damage. She's got a history with her mom, as we all do. As we all do. I found that whenever we were with these two and not inside of the back rooms, I could not care less as to anything happening in the film. Thankfully, a very large chunk of this film is going to take place in these very abstract, surreal-looking rooms that mirror that of an 80s office space. You know, sans the funny guy with the big glasses looking for his swing line stapler. There are a couple supporting characters, one of which is the daughter from Shrinking, which is a very lovely little show. But the spotlight is squarely focused on Clark and Mary. More importantly, it's focused on the rooms themselves. Whenever these two yahoos enter into this other dimension, or whatever the hell it is, a gateway, a portal, name it whatever you want, the movie's not really hung up on the lore so much as it is the unknown. They will venture deeper and deeper into this never-ending puzzle until eventually they will not only be amazed by this maze, they will also get crazed by this daze. Those were just words that rhymed. And some of the scares they did phase. Mainly, I liked how the camera would turn and you weren't sure if you saw something over there, and then it would turn the other direction. And I think I spotted some eyes. Nope, that's just a cardboard cutout. It keeps you on the edge a little bit. You don't know where the camera's gonna go next. It might go up on the ceiling and you see the floor has turned sideways and now you can walk up there like some sort of fucking Harry Potter staircase. If you're looking for some gore and some carnage, this is not the film for you. Very light on the kills, very light on the blood. There are a couple, shock and awe moments, but it's pretty tame. This is more just a psychological game that's being played right now, and I appreciate it. I don't think there was a single jump scare to be had, which I also thought was nice. I don't mind a good jump scare from time to time, but usually it's the cheapest trick in the book where it's just a really loud noise or someone smashing something in a way that you never would in real life. So this youngster director does a fantastic job just keeping the focus on the tension of just being in these creepily empty rooms. And there is something very unnerving about being in a very large space where there's just like a random ass chair in the corner. I remember going into my grandpa's house, into his basement. It was unfinished. It was just really old and musty, probably from like the 60s or some shit. There's like a brick pillar in the middle. There's a rusty old-timey parking meter leaned up against a wall in the corner that probably has a crazy backstory I know I'm not ready to hear about. Or maybe you've had the unfortunate privilege to go down into the catacombs of a church. Chilling to the bone. Now, while the movie does not venture in that direction, save it for the sequel, we do go to some very fascinating locales. We're just not with the most fascinating of people, and that's where I think the movie suffers the most. These are not great characters to get lost with. Cloverfield, for instance, a found footage film, which I happen to really enjoy, has a camera dude that's very likable, and we never even see his face. He's just very lovable behind the scenes as he narrates all the shit taking place. We don't get that with Backrooms. These guys are more just automatons walking around like NPCs that you're not playing as, just to lead us down the next creepy corridor. Back to the positives. Music's fire. I thought it was really good. Really got me into the atmosphere it was going for. They nailed the visual effects in this thing. Everything does look practical. I was never really taken out, even when things get a little zany towards the end. In fact, another on the maybe negative side, I would say, is this could go even zanier. We've established that pretty much anything goes in this place, and the deeper you get, it turns into kind of an Inception situation. Things start to break down. And what once started out as Sarah Jessica Parker, 15 floors later turns into a horse. Maybe we'll get more of that in the sequel. End of the day, I thought this was a good movie. I didn't think it was amazing by any means, but it's a solid watch I would recommend. My son, I think, liked it a little bit more than I did because, he's the youth of today and they just know what they know. This was pretty much a full house going in. The boys came out. They weren't in tuxedos, but they did fill up the rows. Very obnoxiously loud talking during the trailers. I was bracing for the worst. But I will give a tip of the hat to the guys out there that went to this movie. They shut the fuck up as soon as that movie started up. I didn't hear a peep from them throughout the film. So good job. You made this dad proud. Number 2. Sam Raimi returns to the big screen with a brand new psychological thriller called Send Help. And it was a bold move, releasing it the same weekend as what surely will be the cinematic hit of the year, Melania.
Here we go again.
What we have here with Send Help is a less than 2-hour R-rated affair. Like I said, it's a psychological thriller, and for the most part, it's kind of a one-woman show with Rachel McAdams putting in all the work. Her co-star Dylan O'Brien plays her douchey boss. He's also really damn good in this movie, and these two are what the film is going to be centrally focused on. Rachel's character, Linda Liddy, is extremely good at what she does, which is strategy and planning for a company that promised her she would become VP right around the corner. Unfortunately, the CEO died, leaving the company to his garbage son. And he has no interest in working with Linda. She's repulsive to him. She's got her frumpy outfits. She takes her tuna fish sandwich to work and eats it at her desk. And her best friend is a fucking bird. But it's Linda's mantra to stand up for herself and prove that she is good enough. She even has inspirational posters that remind her of that. So she stands up for herself, and so he throws her a bone, offers her to take a flight over to this big meeting, and that's where things go south. That's when her survivor skills are going to kick in as this plane crashes into the ocean and she finds herself stranded on an island with only her boss and her wits about her. And you better believe the skills she's picked up over the years watching that show are going to come into play. This is as far as I'm going to take the story. Just know there is going to be a lot of crazy stuff going on in this. Some pretty brutal moments where the camera doesn't shy away. The visuals are fantastic. Not everything looks real. There's a couple CG boars running around the place, but I'm okay with it because it still has this awesome atmosphere. There is some really hardcore sections that only Sam Raimi can deliver in the style that he does. There's twists, there's turns, there's big aha moments. I freaking loved this film, and this is easily the best thing I saw in January. Of course, until later today when I see Melania.
Here we go again.
I really don't have any hangups or notes for this film. I could easily rewatch it. I will rewatch it when it comes home to streaming. But as a self-appointed movie critic, it is my job to tell you whether or not you'll be interested in it. So let's just see if it checks your boxes. Dark humor? Absolutely. A few jump scares for good measure? You better believe it, Buster. A couple gross out moments your body wants to cringe and look away from, but your mind is strong and says, keep holding still. Triple check. Wildly wonderful performances by both of our leads, quad check. Helping matters is you have this gorgeous island to play with. There's some beautiful ocean shots. My favorite is when they go up to the peak of this mountainside and the camera just flies over their head and you see the vast ocean around them. It is gorgeous to look at. I saw this in 3D, not by choice. It was just the window of time that was available for me. And I gotta tell you, it was awesome in 3D. I expected so little though, and we definitely still have that issue with 3D movies where it's like 20% darker when you put those shades on. Like you go like this, oh, I can see stuff better. Nope, now I can't, but things are a little closer. That always frustrates me. However, I do think the trade-off is worth it. If you want a really great experience, the 3D does elevate the material a little bit. It's not Avatar, okay? It's nothing like that. However, Raimi clearly shot this thing knowing it was going to be in 3D, and he does some fun stuff with it. The only disappointment about this movie is I saw this opening night with a buddy, and that theater was almost dead silent. There was like no one in there. I think I counted 6 other people total, which is a huge bummer. We gotta go to original movies, people, or we're just gonna keep getting all the 5th and 6th and 10th installments, or the reboots, or the prequels, or the sequels, or the remakes, or the sidequels, or the fuckquels, or who cares those? I want original stuff. And Sam Raimi absolutely delivered it. And then I'll look this up on Google afterwards and it'll say, yes, Send Help is a remake of a 1975 film with blah, 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 blah. I hope not. I hope that it's actually original. In either case, it's original enough, damn it. That counts for something. As always, with movies I truly appreciate, I don't like to beat around the bush. I don't like to waste more time than I need to waxing on about how great it is. Instead, I would say go check it out, make up your own mind. But this is an easy recommendation for me. And I can't speak highly enough about Miss Rachel McAdams. She is completely different in this film than anything you've ever seen her in before. Truly a testament to great acting. And some of the twists and the rug pulls had me giddy like a schoolgirl. Just, oh, that's fun. I like this. I liked that. I was laughing out loud at moments. It's just a good time at the theaters. The camera is a little tempered this time. There's not a ton of Dutch angles and you know, really quirky shots, but there's still moments that left a twinkle in my eye and a tip of the hat to the director. Number 1. When a pathetic loser snaps a twig making a wish that the girl of his dreams will fall in love with him, he shockingly gets exactly what he wishes for. The hot woman of his dreams, Nikki, quickly switches from friend zone to bone zone as she's ready to take him to Pound Town right away, make him dinner, pack a lunch for him, kiss him goodbye, and stay home cleaning the house, doing all the stereotypical things a common man would love. And so what's brilliant about this horror film obsession is you get to spend an hour and 40 minutes watching this dipshit bear not instantly accept her advancements for sexual pleasure, but instead say things like, are you sure? Do you really want to? I don't know. It's horrifically frustrating stuff. It's brilliant. Okay, so that's not entirely what the premise of the movie is about. Although, if you find yourself getting incredibly frustrated by lead characters who almost go out of their way to make the poorest choices possible, you might just lose your mind watching Obsession. However, in the case of the story, you are supposed to feel that way. But does that necessarily make it a more enjoyable watch? A great question I just asked myself. Let me follow up with an answer right after the title card. Yes, it does. And also kind of no, it doesn't. I'll dissect it a little bit further. This will be a spoiler-free review. If you find yourself enjoying the commentary, feel free to sub to the show Adam Does Movies. I post tons of movie reviews, rants, live streams, all entertainment-based all the time. Let's get some housekeeping out of the way. This was written and directed by Curry Barker. At the time of going to this movie, I didn't recognize that name, nor did I really watch a trailer for this film. Outside of a really quick one, I caught the end of it because I try to avoid previews when I go to movies. I just sit out in the lobby and wait for them to be done. I did catch a glimpse of this, but when I watched the film, I instantly recognized one of the actors in this. It's Cooper Tomlinson, who's part of the skit troupe That's a Bad Idea. Curry Barker, who wrote and directed, is the other half of that troupe. This is their movie. I would find out after the film was done and then perk up a lot more because that's just awesome that these content creators online went to the big leagues and made this pretty damn cool film. Also, their skits online, funny as fuck. I rarely watch anything on Instagram or TikTok. Typically, it's just whatever shows up in my feed as I post something there. But when these guys showed up, I watched a ton of their stuff, and it's all very clever. And you can see that translating into this script. One thing I wish they did more of is the dark humor. There are definitely parts in this that are funny. I believe Barker lends his voice to a phone call later in the film. Pretty recognizable. I'm almost positive it's him. And that's my favorite part of the film, when he's talking to Bear. So let's break this movie down. Surface level storyline. What are we dealing with? Well, it's called Obsession by Kelvin Kline, because our lead character, Bear, has a small group of friends that he's been hanging out with for a long time. One in particular lady catches his fancy, and that's the lovely Miss Nikki. She's a self-sufficient, pretty cool free spirit who just lost a bracelet. It fell down the drain, and this is the perfect opportunity for Bear to go to a local shop, pick her out a new crystal, and finally, after 7 years or something like that, put it out there. Lay it on the line, on the table, say, hey, Nikki, booby, I'm your white knight. I want to be with you. Let's be an item. Here's a necklace. Well, he ends up not getting the necklace, but instead this fun little one-wish willow item that he sees in a box in the back corner of the store, he decides he's going to give that to her instead after bringing her home from the bar. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, Bear, not quite like you and I. He's a pathetic loser. Well, I guess so far we're similar, but this guy has zero confidence in himself and is unable to pull the trigger and ask her out. So when she leaves the car, he decides, in his infinite wisdom, to use the stick on himself. He pulls out that one-wish willow. No, that's not a euphemism, although he probably did that later as well. Made his wish that this girl Nikki would fall in love with him and love him more than anyone else on this godforsaken planet. Snaps that thing, and almost instantly Nikki comes running back outside the house, inviting him in. It's at this point in the movie where I started to get frustrated with our lead character because he does not take the opportunity to sleep with her, even though it's very clear that that's what she wants. The reason I'm frustrated by this is not the fact that he didn't want to take advantage of the situation. She could be high, she could be drunk. I mean, that's all fair. That's all very chivalrous. What's frustrating is after this night, every single decision he makes is batshit insane. Like, this guy is such a fucking loser. He's so hard to sympathize or relate to in any way. And as Nikki starts to unravel and get crazier and crazier, keep in mind, she's already pretty nuts on the first night. Loudly screaming at the top of her lungs in the middle of the night, going off into a corner staring at him. She's completely unhinged. The fact that he sticks with her and continues to keep this thing going for weeks or months, it's a little hard to understand, is mind-boggling. And that's going to be my big hang-up with the film. It's also not necessarily a bad thing per se, because his character is supposed to be a bit unhinged. He is this like super simp who really wants to be with Nikki, even if there's a million red flags flying at him. And he keeps kind of having to re-justify the relationship. And yeah, sure, she's duct taping the door so I don't leave because she can't live without me even for a couple minutes, but she's hot. So, I mean, this is my only shot, right? Let's talk about the good. There's a lot of it. Visually, it looks fantastic. It's a very beautiful looking movie. Love how they filmed the thing. It is creepy. It's scary at times. The actress who plays Nikki, massive shout out. She was phenomenal in this movie. Really sold her. I'm not happy with the screaming. I feel like my ears were bleeding by the time the movie was over, because there are a lot of moments in this where she's just out of nowhere blasting those vocals across the room in a haunting manner. I mentioned Cooper is in the movie. He's one of the friends, Ian. There's another friend to round out the friend group named Sarah. They're gonna have, parts here and there, kind of ask questions, but not really much. It's rated R for a tidge amount of nudity. No, it's not the hot kind, unfortunately. There's a good chunk of swearing, and there are a couple violent moments in the flick. If I were to compare it to a similar film, I would say Talk to Me comes to mind. It shares some similarities with that film, although I prefer Talk to Me more, mainly because I just wasn't so frustrated with the lead character. This film has some solid music to really pull you in too. I mean, production-wise, it's pretty much flawless. I have no notes. The actors are great in this. Again, Nikki, just the way that she kind of like moves around once in a while and gets all herky-jerky and goes from 0 to 100 on the snap of a finger, and just that really unsettling feeling that at any moment she could snap again. That's fun to watch. Does have some jump scares, and every single one of them is reliant on really, really loud noises. I mentioned the screaming. That's going to be the bulk of the scares in this film. But when the easy stuff isn't happening, it is very effective as just a good horror flick. Overall, this was a win. It's incredibly entertaining, never a dull moment. I just want to harp for one final time. If you're following a character that seemingly is doing rational things throughout a movie, yet still having to deal with a bunch of shit that is out of his control or her control, that makes those horror elements or those bad situations feel more impactful because they feel earned, right? Like, okay, he ran out of the house, he got in his car, he took off to a location he didn't think she would follow him to, and boom, there she is. That to me is a lot more satisfying than, all right, I'm watching a broken guy who's not all there himself, and he's gonna continuously make the dumbest choices humanly imaginable, and then I just have to watch him suffer the consequences of said decisions. But because he's written that way by design, it's a character flaw, I can forgive it in this instance, and I can enjoy this movie from a scary standpoint, from a production design standpoint. Obsession, it's a recommendation. Wipeout! Who could have possibly known that Obsession by Calvin Klein would be #1 on this list? This is truly one of the most unique rankings I am sure you've ever seen in your life. Obsession, who's heard of that? It's a little tiny indie flick. There's even an actress named Indy in it. That's how indie it is. And it also grossed like $500 million and is super popular. Regardless, there were some fun, shocking surprises on here. Recently, Pinocchio Unstrung, making it in the top 10. That's wild. That should have been at the far bottom in another normal year. But now these guys are making good films? What the hell's happening over at the Puniverse? A mummy movie by the same director that made that freaking fantastic Evil Dead Rise? So far down the list, this is a criminal topsy-turvy world we're living in right now in the grand experiment that is 2026. But there you have it. Backrooms, Send Help, and Obsession in the top 3. But I think the biggest takeaway we can get from this list is I saw a lot of shit this year already. Thanks again for watching the video. If you didn't know, I'm a one-man operation here at Adam Does Movies. I also have a full-time job. I got a family to take care of, and I would absolutely love if you supported me on patreon.com/AdamDoesMovies like these beautiful people did here. These are the silver and gold members. There's also a bronze membership starting at $1, plus access to over 300 videos from the Adam Vault at any support level. I would really appreciate it. It's the best way to support the show. Hope to see you there.